The following is a special presentation of TNN Motorsports. Anderson Speedway in Indiana is one of the birthplace racetracks of the ASA. Tight corners and close quarters, lots of racing up close and personal, which always leads to plenty of on-track action. Tight racing under these conditions makes it tough on the men and on their machines. But when the checkered flag flies, a victory earned here is that much sweeter. Hold on tight. The PayLess 400 from Anderson is next. We are live in the heartland of America, Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana, for the PayLess Supermarkets 400, part of the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series, live here on TNN Motorsports. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Benjamin. Welcome to Anderson Speedway, one of the seminal tracks of the ASA Series. They've been bringing these cars here for 33 consecutive years. One of the great racetracks in the country, too. A quarter-mile bull ring, high-banked, 18 degrees. We're expecting a tremendously competitive afternoon of racing, and we're glad you're with us on TNN. Starts the second half of the 1999 ASA campaign, does this race, the 11th race of the season. The first half of the season saw many different drivers win and a very tight points battler up. Jim Trado, the gap between the leader, Gary St. Amand, and those pursuing him, very, very tight.
Gary actually was the champion a year ago, but he's battling back. He's fifth in points. He was second just one race ago. Mike Miller leading the charge because he has 3 victories and some great finishes, but he's had his problems. What it has done, it's jumbled up the points quite a bit. Mike Miller leading by 51 over a trio of drivers that have certainly done what they can to stay close. Jimmy Johnson up to second in points, but just a handful of points separate Johnson from fourth place Tim Sauter. St. Amand's approach to today's event, because of his poor finish one race ago, is I've got to get up front, lead a bunch of laps. I have to drive differently because I'm 130 points out. There you see the second 5. Rick Beebe is 6th. Ricky Johnson, some of these other drivers really expecting a good run today, and they need one to kick off the second half of the season. And we talked about this racetrack, a quarter mile, 18-degree banking in the corners. They've been running here for a long time. Butch Miller, our expert analyst, you've won here. What are some of the keys to victory at Anderson?
Well, I think probably you've got to have a big motor. You've got to have great handling in the car. You've got to be an aggressive driver. And number one, you got to weld a big bumper on the front of that thing because that's the easiest way to pass.
You were telling me, too, that brakes are very important here.
Brakes are really important, especially in a long run where you're in traffic. You've got to make sure that your brakes don't get overheated waiting to try to get by the guy in front of you.
But that big front bumper is the key. All right, we'll look for that a little bit later on. One driver who's had some great qualifying runs this year hasn't quite finished where he would like to. He's done it again this weekend. He's lined up on the outside of the front row. Let's find out about some of those drivers who will head the pack today. Downstairs to Brian Drever.
Well, fellas, you mentioned Gary St. Amand. He started the season buried in points, but then clawed his way back with a win to near the top of the charts. One race ago, he had problems again, finds himself in the hole, needs to win races, lead laps, and sit on the pole. That's exactly what he's going to do here today at Anderson, Indiana in the Wynn Chevrolet, just in front of Tim Sauter, who 11 races ago won the first contest of the year and 1 race ago won the second. So history has repeated itself for the driver of the Build-A-Mold Monte Carlo, Tim Sauter, who led all the points for the first half of the season. The first half of the first half, anyway, is back on track. But outside the front row in the Adirondack Ford, Jack Landis sat on the pole for the very first race of the year, and things looked like they were going his way. It hasn't worked out that way in Victory Lane, but Jack sitting on the outside of the front row, it looks like you're aiming to start the second half of the season the way you started the first, by making some noise in this car.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Brian, I appreciate that, and that's just what we intend to do, is to make a little noise, especially the second half of the season. First half of the season, you know, we've had some fast cars, and just not at the end. Hopefully we're going to turn it around here today at Anderson.
All right, Jack Landis with a clear track in front of him. Who knows what this guy can do? He sure was impressive early on. Back to you guys.
Lots of drivers have been very impressive in the first half of the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series season. Let's give you a look at how things stack up at the midway points as we have completed 10 races, 10 to go. 2,750 laps of competition. Jim, we've had 6 different winners and 15 drivers with the top 5, and I think that speaks to how tightly competitive this series is.
Indeed it has. There's been a usual suspect cast of 6 or 7 drivers, but we have drivers like Derek Gilchrist winning a race, Jimmy Johnson winning a race. 13 drivers have led a lap. they've led a bunch of laps. Mike Garvey leads that category, but he does not lead in most race wins. Mike Miller has 3 victories on the season, including a dominant run at I-70 Speedway. The asterisks mean these drivers have won for the first time in their ASA careers. Sauter with 2 victories, including the season opener. Gilchrist, rookie, hasn't had the greatest finishes other than the wins, but he's got 2 victories this season. Gary St. Amant, Mike Garvey, and Jimmy Johnson's win at Memphis round out the list of winners thus far this year. As usual with the ASA, some young guns have done terrifically well, and some great veterans have been very, very strong, like Mike Miller. Not your brother, we know, but a guy that you have a lot of regard for. What's been the biggest surprise, Butch, to you in the first half of the season?
I think the biggest surprise has been the fact that we lost 2 of the best competitors in ASA history, Bob Seneker and Mike Eddy, and still the level of competition is just as tough as it ever was. Just as hard to win a race here.
And it's going to be very tough on these drivers. Whoever gets to victory lane today will certainly have earned their win in the PayLess Supermarkets 400. About ready to put them under green to get things going. Let's head back downstairs to Brian Drebber.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. You know, I wish I could do this, but I'm going to get some help. Rod Bonai from PayLess Supermarkets gets to give him the command we all wait for. Rod?
Welcome to the PayLess Supermarkets 400. On behalf of PayLess and our friends at Pepsi, at Kraft Foods, at Seifert's Chips, and at Budweiser, it's my pleasure to give you the words you've all been waiting for. Gentlemen, start your engines!
The balloons go up, the fireworks are going off. We'll be right back to call the starting lineup for you from Anderson Speedway in just a moment. Our exclusive coverage of the PayLess 400 on TNN Motorsports is being brought to you in part by Grease Lightning Multipurpose Degreaser, by Tecumseh Engines, power to do things right, and by AC-Delco Automotive Parts. If you're not asking for it, you're asking for it.
Hi, I'm Dixie Contos with Payless Supermarkets in Anderson, Indiana. I would like to welcome you to the TNN telecast of the Payless 400, presented by our good friends at Pepsi, Kraft Foods, Seifert's, and Budweiser. It's 400 laps of excitement, Anderson Speedway style, and it's all in today's Payless 400. Thanks for watching.
And we are glad to have you with us today on TNN Motorsports for the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series. 26 cars ready to take the green. More than $140,000 on the line today at 400 very difficult laps about to unfold. Our starting grid this afternoon being brought to you by Grease Lightning. Speed count, choose Grease Lightning multi-purpose cleaner. I'll show you that lineup here in just a moment as the cars get ready to settle it out, get after it when the green comes out. Pontiac Grand Prix, the official ASA Series pace car for 1999, taking the field around the quarter-mile high banks. Here at Anderson Speedway in Indiana, we are thrilled to have you with us on this afternoon. Here's how they'll come to the green. Gary St. Amant, the defending series champion, on the pole with the Wins Chevrolet, and we met Jack Landis in the Adirondack International Speedway Ford alongside. Row 2, Tim Sauter, Necedah, Wisconsin, the Build-A-Bowl Chevrolet, last week's winner in Iowa, and rookie Derek Gilchrist from Raleigh, North Carolina, Ken Schrader's Grease Lightning Chevrolet. Row 3, Rick Beebe from Merriam, Kansas, the Meyer Stores Pontiac, and alongside the Tecumseh Chevrolet from the Lefevre Stables, Mike Garvey from Muskegon, Michigan. Fourth row, rookie Rick Johnson from El Cajon, California, the AFCO Herzog Motorsports Chevrolet. Starting 8th, 3-time winner this season, the point leader, Mike Miller from Woodstock, Georgia. That's the Janicki Pontiac. Row 5, rookie Eddie Hoffman from Westchester, Illinois, the Structural Transport Ford, the 5-car. Jimmy Johnson from El Cajon, California. The other Herzog Chevrolet, the 44, the Pennzoil car. The winner at Memphis earlier this year. 6th row, Ken Alexander from Anderson, South Carolina, the CEO of Grease Lightning, the Grease Lightning Chevrolet. Great qualifying effort for that team. Greg Stewart from Four Oaks, North Carolina, the Keener Pontiac. 7th row, Brandon Sperling, Yorba Linda, California, the McDonald's drive-through Chevrolet from the Crookston Motorsports Stables. Starting 14 from Indianapolis, back with the series, the 94 of Freddie Bear, the Dura Builders Pontiac. Row 8, Dave Dorn from Cincinnati, Ohio, the Lista Dorn Enterprises Pontiac. Tristan Dupuis from Lansing, Michigan, who's run so well this year, the CareerMatrix.com Pontiac. 9th row, former winner here, Harold Fair from Detroit, Michigan, the Payless Supermarkets Chevrolet, or make that the Pontiac, the 81 car. And Dave Sensima from Middleville, Michigan, the Prestige Truck Accessories Pontiac. 10th row, Russ Tuttle from Indianapolis, the Tyson Foods Chevrolet, the 19th starter. And starting 20th, Alec Pinsino from Windsor, Ontario, the Build-A-Bowl Chevrolet. 11th row, Tom Harrington from Franklin, Tennessee, in the Motorsports Pontiac, the 8 car, and Tim Taylor from Indianapolis, the EMAS Pontiac, that's car number 28. Row 12, Mike Thomas from Goshen, Indiana, the Thompson's Towing 41, that's a Pontiac. David Ansbaugh from Sturgis, Michigan, the First Age Chevrolet, the 37. Herb Eddy in the 90 car, the National Gypsum Pontiac, and Rick Everidge from Stroh, Indiana, making his first ASA start this year, the Everidge Motor Sales Chevrolet, the 63, will round out the 26 cars. Butch Miller, if you're sitting back in the middle of the pack like Mike Miller is starting 8th, what are you going to try to do these first 50 laps?
You've got to be really careful right now because you're right in the worst zone of a field you could be in. Because if anything happens in front of you, you're going to be in it. You know, it's just a dangerous position. You're almost better off starting at the back.
Jim Trado, quickly, what do you look for in the first few laps here?
Look for Gary St. Amant to check out and the rest of the field to try to stay close.
Mike Miller starts outside the 8th row, or the 4th row, make that, starting 8th. Gary St. Amant, your pole sitter. Safety car is in the infield. They'll be pitting in the X this afternoon. We're glad you're with us on TNN Motorsports, and here we go. Up to full cry, and Gary St. Amant in the wins. Chevrolet leads him down to the green flag. Troubles for the 40 of Brandon Sperling. He is slowing down right off the green, down low. He's going to come off the racetrack. Perhaps a tire down. We'll check it out and see. He comes to the pits right away before we even get 2 laps on the board. St. Amant is your leader. Pit crew takes a look at the right front corner of Sperling's machine. St. Amant over Landis. Tim Sauter settles into 3rd. Gilchrist is 4th. Remember that the rookie Derek Gilchrist has won 2 of these races already this season. St. Amant by 2 car lengths. Trouble out in front. Alec Pinsino has spun at the exit of pit road. Everybody jumps on the binders. The 41 of Mike Thomas, and we've got a stack up over in turn 3. Greg Stewart, Tristan Dupuis, Dave Doran, and Ken Alexander all getting together. Gentlemen, the excitement has started early here at Anderson.
12 drivers have made their first start here at Anderson Speedway in an ASA car. Four of those cars, all involved, were all making their initial starts in ASA.
Wow, look at Greg Stewart's machine, Butch Miller. Lots of problems there.
It takes you a week to put a body on it. Apparently 3 seconds to tear it off.
Tough run for Greg Stewart here in the early going. Didn't see that one develop up in 3. If we could take a look, the car of Dave Doran and Tristan Dupuis' machine still hooked together. Dupuis got shuffled and got put up in the air. His car not even in contact with a racing surface. Dave Doran's machine, you see a flat left front tire there. Dupuis with the net down. He's unhooking. He's going to climb out. Tough afternoon for these drivers already. Dupuis has had such a good season to this point.
Tristan has a season best of a 5th place, but you're absolutely right, Rick. And
we'll show you quickly what happened. This is what we were watching going into 1. Alec Pinsino looked like he got it just out of control. So back
just got a little bit behind in his steering there.
Now, in the opposite corner of this tight quarter mile is where this action happened.
Take a look at Ken Alexander here behind Dupuis. That's Dupuis in the yellow car, and the 33 of Stewart apparently jumped on the brakes and went right away from him.
Looks like the steering left Tristan Dupuis' hands. The car steered to the left and brought in Ken Alexander, who he rode along with there.
Now, Dave Doran's orange 77 car is behind the 33. You couldn't see it there. And there's Dave from Cincinnati. Brother of Kevin Doran, the noted IndyCar and sports car team manager and owner.
They brought along Lista as a sponsor as well, a sponsor that they've had for their Ferrari back team for the last 3 years. And Lista, making workspace work, will have a lot of work to do to get that 77 car back in action.
Dave Doran checking out his workspace as they sort things out up in turn 3. So we're under caution. 6 laps complete here at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. Ken Alexander back underway, checking the steering of the 03. We'll find out if he'll be able to restart when we continue. Welcome back to Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana, early in the PayLess Supermarkets 400 today for the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series. It's great to have you with us. 9 laps are complete. And Mike Miller, the point leader, stopping early here. We had 2 spins, and one of those developed into a pretty serious wreck up in turn 3. 4 cars involved. The driver that took the brunt of it standing by with Brian Drebber.
Things that started off awful good this weekend for Greg Stewart have gone south in a big hurry here. I mean, you tore the car up pretty bad. You're okay, and what happened?
Well, it's just typical of Anderson here. You know, everybody expects it. I told you earlier I didn't want to see you today, and except maybe at the end, but I saw everybody checking up in front of me, waving their arms. You know, somebody was evidently got sideways, and I checked up, and whoever was behind me didn't check up. Got in my rear bumper, spun me, and then the grease lightning car and a couple more got me in the right front wheel. But these guys work fast, man. They're working hard. They, you know, got a good young team. they're going to work on it, so they're just going to fix the right front, and we'll get back out there. There's going to be a lot more of this today, so we'll just get out there and hopefully get something out of it anyway.
Well, good luck to you, and good luck to the crew.
Appreciate it.
I would say that car will look a whole lot different if they get the 33 car back on the racetrack.
Greg Stewart was here 1 year ago. He qualified 9th and finished 11th, and he's been raised, so to speak, on a short track similar to this in North Carolina, so he understands the patience and what it takes. But when he said he checked up and waved his arms, Butch, 13-second laps, there's not a lot of time to react, and we saw the result of that.
No, and that's exactly what happened. It just, you know, it's an accordion effect. The farther back it gets, the more abrupt the stopping gets, and he was into the abrupt end of the stopping.
The Build-A-Bold crew taking care of Alec Pincino's machine as well. He spun early going into turn 1. We saw two things happen at the same time. The 93 went around, and then the incident up in turn 3, and the safety crew is up there, so moisture down on the track. So speedy dry being applied up there, and it'll be brushed in, get the moisture up off the track so we can return to full speed competition. Laps are counting, of course, under caution. 11 complete right now. Miller back on the racetrack, Mike Miller, and he is being scored back in 18th, 19th position now behind Herbetti, but has been shown on the lead lap. So only a handful of cars have lost laps. One of those cars, and we'll try to find out a little more about his situation, we saw Brandon Sperling off the pace right at the drop of the green, went to the middle of the track and then down low. Needed to change a right front, it appeared, on the 40 car. Sperling back on the racetrack seems to be fine, but he lost 4 laps in that exchange. Butch Miller, how hard is it to come a couple of laps down here at Anderson?
It can be done. And that's the good part about ASA racing. With the single file restarts, you need to stay out on the racetrack when all the leaders pit. And then it's fairly easy to get your lap back. You know, I was watching at the start of the race, and it looked like he just made a little contact early. And actually, even before he took the green flag, and that's what cut his tire down.
So Brandon Sperling back on the racetrack right now, circulating toward the back of the pack. But as Butch outlined, he's got an opportunity, plenty of time. We're just barely started here this afternoon at Anderson. A place I've always wanted to come and visit, and I'm glad to finally get my first look at this place. A track that's got a tremendous amount of ASA history. 33 times they've brought these cars here. Some great names have won here. We were looking through the record book. Tiny Lund won a race here back in the late 60s. So that shows you how long there has been big league stock car racing here at Anderson.
Indeed, and as Butch and I were musing at the top 5 finishes of years gone by, even Pete Hamilton sat on the pole here in a Dodge, and Butch is pretty excited about that. But the series itself has passed through Anderson. Mark Martin is the winningest driver here with 4 wins in a 400-lap race. It used to be the Redbud 300, and since it's been the 400-lap grind, the first one in the afternoon here at Anderson.
Getting ready to go green. Safety car is in. Gary St. Amant leads him out of turn 4. The pole sitter, he's led all the way so far. Back underway. Take a look at Mike Garvey in the 1, back in 5th. There's St. Amant. Jack Landis is 2nd. Tim Sauter is 3rd. Gilchrist is 4th. That's the white car with the red roof that you see there. There's St. Amant, typical orange and black Wins colors on the 7th car. Rick Beebe sits 6th. Jimmy Johnson is 7th here in the early going. Which so far everybody's staying down low. Can you run 2 grooves here and pass?
It's tough, and there's no such thing as diamond in the corner and trying to duck underneath. So what you have to do is you have to charge into the corner so hard that you take away the guy in front of you exit to the corner. So you have to be alongside of him where he can't run up to the wall. Then you can beat him.
We saw the 03 of Ken Alexander trying to snake that car back and forth right before our last break. He was involved in that skirmish up in turn 3. Back on the track with no bodywork on the front of the car. You just saw him pit briefly. Crew took a look. They've sent it back out. This is for 10th spot, the 94 and the 6 of Dave Sensiba. Freddie Bear in the 94. Good looking paint scheme on that car. First time we've seen Freddie in a while. Bear up on the high side. Sensiba working low. Which, from what you're saying, I'd say Bear needs to get down on the white line if he's going to hold him off.
Well, not necessarily. There used to be a guy that ran really well here with the number 84 on his car, and he ran that same groove from the start of the race to the end of the race. I never thought it was good, but he went fast here.
Bob Seneca liking that high side. There goes Sensiba by Bear, a 9th at Nashville last year for his best finish in an ASA car.
And Freddie Bear had his best start of any ASA race he's been in. Started 14th, and Sensiba started back in 18th. And as they battle for the 10th position, yes, there was an accident, but these guys are making a way to pass cars here at Anderson.
So Sensiba starting to pick up some spots here in the early going, working his way toward the front. A strong competitor, still looking for a first win. We're told that a brake line was pinched shut on the 03 of Ken Alexander, and that's why he was in the pits and then back out again. But he is minus some body work on the nose of that car, so aerodynamics certainly will hurt him today as he tries to be competitive, get some laps back, and score a good finish here at Anderson Speedway. Sensiba to the high side.
Dave still holds the track record here, Rick. It was set in 1996, and of course the fastest qualifier starts on the pole. So to see Sensible make this charge early, he knows how to lead, he knows how to run up front, but he may have been a little cautious running back 18th in the grid, a little scared at some points, and now he's settling in with the more comfortable driver, shall we say, closer to the front.
Working up on Rick Beebe, who is 6th. He is shown 7th right now. Ricky Johnson there in the mix as well in the 22 car. 27 laps are complete. No change among the top group of drivers. Tim Taylor there in the 28 machine with a nice run. Harold Fair right behind him. They work for 7th and 8th. Back up front, Gary St. Amant leading the race in car number 7, drawing a bead on Alec Pinsino. There's the 37 of David Anspaugh. He's a lapped car already. The 07 of Landis trying to hang on to second spot ahead of the 9 of Tim Sauter. Sauter with a couple of wins under his belt already, and the winner last week on Cedar Rapids at Hawkeye Downs. And Landis, look at Landis pushing high in the corners.
Actually, he's chasing the back end up to the top of the track, because I noticed he's been a little bit loose right in the middle. When that happens, you have no choice but to take the front end up to meet the back end.
Working their way by David Anspaugh on the 37. It goes another lap down to those cars. After some early jitters, we've put almost 35 laps on the board here, and we've been clean for quite a while, which is good news. Landis working the middle of the racetrack. Sauter unable to draw a bead on him so far. Sauter's a smart race driver. Very impressed with him this year. Took a look there on Landis, couldn't make the move. Now Gilchrist working his way up on the inside. Slower car moves up high and lets the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place machines move through. That's Gilchrist in the 52 riding 4th.
Tim Sauter really likes this racetrack, and coming off the high of a win one race ago at Hawkeye Downs Speedway in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that Build-A-Bolt Chevrolet team is getting it together. They've had some troubles this year. They led the season point standings for the first 6 events. Coming off of that win and coming to a track where he's had 2 top 10 finishes in just 2 starts, Sauter is a serious threat today.
Certainly a driver to watch. Mike Thomas in the 41 moving out of the way so the leaders can go by. Gary St. Amant working on Ken Alexander now, minus the front sheet metal in the 03. St. Amant to the high side. He's got Landis right with him. Those are the first 2 cars. Alexander moves low, lets the leaders move by. We're on board with the Grease Lightning Chevrolet. There's Landis riding 2nd in the 07. Down the backstretch into 3. Outside. Gilchrist to the 52 now. Hanging right in there. Mike Garvey is 4th. Gary St. Amant is your early leader. Coming up on lap 40. Lap traffic a factor for the leaders. Huge crowd in Anderson. Back with plenty more in a moment. Welcome back to the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports. The PayLess 400 today at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. I'm Rick Benjamin, Butch Miller, Jim Trano alongside. Brian Drummers on pit road for us. Gary St. Amant, the defending series champion, is your leader. The pole sitter today in the Wins Chevrolet. It's opened up a good lead now as lap traffic is really a factor here at Anderson. A couple of cars on the sidelines at the moment thanks to that early spill up in turn 3. There's still plenty of traffic out there. 26 cars took the initial green. This, the battle for 4th spot. Eric Gilchrist in the 52 has the position now. Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet, the 1 car right behind him. That's the black machine. Gilchrist with the 2 wins this year. We've got trouble up in turn 4. Looks like the David Anspaugh machine, and he turns right onto pit road in front of Rick Beebe. Almost tags Beebe in the nose. Anspaugh wanted to get to pit road quickly. There's a tire loose bouncing down the main straightaway, and it's headed right for the safety car, and they back the Pontiac Grand Prix out of the way. That tire's headed back to the racetrack in turn 1.
Well, if Dave Anspaugh does not return to the track, at least he should get credit for that tire making another circuit around here at the quarter mile.
Getting 1 more lap for him anyway before he went to pit road. Anspaugh checked up in the middle of 3 and 4, was hit by a couple of cars, and we've got caution on the speedway with 48 laps into the books.
Kind of looks like the whole center of that wheel's missing right there. All of the area that the lug nuts bolt on, that whole section looks like it's broken out of there.
Anspaugh on pit road. Crew at the 37, the first aid machine, taking a look. He does need some first aid. They're bolting a new right front on that car, and they've bungeed the front sheet metal down.
Actually, they were taking the center, the old center
off. Yeah. Take a look at Anspaugh. Yeah. There's the trouble right there. Looked like the wheel came off in the middle of the corner.
wheel just came right off the car. He did not have contact with anybody, it appears. And the unfortunate thing, Butch, 18-degree banking here, and Anspa, his tire just broke away.
What a job BB did right there. I don't know how he missed him. I mean, he doesn't have a ding on that car, and that could have been a serious problem for him, headed right for the right front.
Sure looked as though he was going to be collected in that. There goes the wheel. We see the right front fender peeling off the 37 car, and there's the tire bouncing up in turn 3.
That second, third, and fourth place cars going by with Gilchrist on the outside.
Leaders scatter to stay out of trouble. There's Beebe locking him up and letting the 37 go by. And I saw that bobble of the 23 at the last minute. I thought Anspa had clipped him, and he apparently didn't make any contact at all.
Car on the right-hand side here, screen is on the inside. You saw the fender fly up and the wheel fly away. And as he tried to gather control, Landis is right there in the black and white car. Tim Sauter running third, just behind. They were able to turn to the inside.
So a close call for Rick Beebe, one of the challengers certainly here today. Beebe in the 23 car lined up 5th. Anspa on pit road, gets service from his crew, gets away. So he will rejoin the field. We remain under caution, though, at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. More of the PayLess 400 when we come back. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports. Your leader remains Gary St. Amant. 60 laps of 400 complete today. Jack Landis in the 07 doing a nice job hanging in second spot. Tim Sauter is third in the blue and white number 9 car that you see. Eric Gilchrist a couple of car lengths further back in fourth. Then Mike Garvey in the black number 1, the Tecumseh machine. He is 5th right now. Good battle there for 4th spot. Rick Beebe in the 23 got a glimpse of his machine. He is 6th. That's the yellow Meyer Stores Pontiac. And then Jimmy Johnson in the Pennzoil Chevrolet is 7th. Eddie Hoffman next in line in the 5 car. We watch Johnson. There's Hoffman in the Structural Transport Ford. Next in line in 8th. Ricky Johnson in the 22 car is 9th. Here's Sauter taking a look on Landis for 2nd. Been surprised, really, that Sauter hasn't gotten up there and given him more of a tussle for it, because Landis has given him plenty of racing room on the low side.
Well, still, it's hard to get off the corner when you're pinched down low. You need a whole racetrack, and it's amazing how quick, when you step on the gas, you run out towards that outside wall. They say it's got 4 degrees of banking on the front straightaways and on the back straightaway, but I'd say it's 4 degrees the wrong direction.
Might send you off into the bingo parlor over on the backstretch there, huh?
That's right.
What you were talking before we came on the air about how narrow this place seems from the driver's seat as well. When you want to get up toward the wall, does it make you flinch, turn the wheel back?
When you're on the outside of somebody, you just pray that he doesn't use up more racetrack than he needs. And sometimes that guy, if he's a really tough competitor and trying not to lose that lap, he'll use up every inch of that racetrack minus a half an inch. He'll give you that half an inch to keep your car out there.
We were on board a moment ago with Ken Alexander's Grease Lightning Chevrolet. Now on board with Mike Garvey in the Tecumseh Chevrolet. Garvey trying to take the measure of Derek Gilchrist as they battle it out for 4th spot.
Mike Garvey likes high-banked racetracks. However, he has not had the great success here at Anderson Speedway. He's looking forward to Salem next week, I can guarantee that. But with a 15th and 18th place finish in 2 starts.
Whoa, and there's trouble for Garvey. And Beebe. Russ Tuttle gets into the 1 car, it looks like. Beebe collected in that one, too. Just talking about how Mike Garvey will want to go to Salem. He'll really be unable to wait for a trip to Salem after this. Hard into the outside retaining wall. Shows you how well built that 1 car is. Tuttle quickly onto pit road. And Butch, that looked to be just like what we were talking about. Not enough racing room there for 3 cars.
Not enough room. And I was looking at Garvey's car there, and that radiator's folded over pretty bad. I think he's going to be in for a while.
Garvey with the ductwork hanging off the 1. Let's go downstairs to pit road. Brian Drebber.
Well, on both ends of pit road, first you've got Russ Tuttle in the Tyson Chevrolet. You know, he was involved in that problem, and his crew has gone to work, but the damage to his car is not nearly what it is, as you mentioned, to that of Mike Garvey. The Tecumseh Chevrolet is tore up bad. One of the fast guys has another run of bad luck here. If it wasn't for bad luck, sometimes Mike wouldn't have any at all. It sounds cliche, but boy, has that been true, fellas?
Tough break for him indeed, and it looks like we just saw him go by our location here in turn 1 going off pit road. They're having to push start the Tuttle machine. I think Garvey's got a tire down that they didn't change. I think he came back out to avoid losing another lap. His right rear is cut down. You can see the smoke from it. Rick Beebe with heavy damage to the right front corner of the 23. The safety car is out. Beebe's going to come to pit road to the attention of his crew. Eddie Hoffman is in. Ken Alexander comes back in. Beebe's got troubles with the bodywork on the right front corner of the Meyer Stores machine.
They may be checking if the car is towed out because he kind of skied off of the 16 car in that incident. It might have knocked the steering out where both front wheels aren't pointing in the right direction.
And word from the Russ Tuttle pits is they're going to have to stop and do some serious repair work. There you see Garvey and the right rear tire gone on that car, the smoke issuing out of it. Garvey coming back around the racetrack trying to save a lap here. He's got huge bodywork damage to the front. That's the left front fender that's peeled back.
You know, the radiator is bent, but it doesn't appear to be leaking. It's
amazing.
Unbelievable.
All the struts are bent. All the ductwork is gone. They're going to pull that fender back. They're going to change tires. Take a look at it here on board the Grease Lightning machine. This is a look up in front. You saw the car bounce into the wall. That was the one of Garvey. Everybody scatters to try to stay out of the way. Garvey up in the high side under control with the brakes on. Let's take a look now from our backstretch view.
Gilchrist gets by Tuttle. Then Garvey looks like he thought he was clear. They make contact big time.
Looks like Garvey went up the racetrack a little bit sooner than he should have.
And when Tuttle bounced back down, that collected BB's machine. Jimmy Johnson just skating through on the infield without damage. Ricky Johnson and Dave Sensipa get by. We'll take a look one more time. This is again off of 2, the 16 and the 1 car. Sure looks like Garvey just let it go too high coming out of the corner.
Tuttle came across the racetrack after that contact. I think he has steering problems as well with that hard impact.
So we're back under caution here at Anderson Speedway in Indiana. Coming up on 75 laps complete of 400 today. Garvey's got his tire work taken care of, but the front of the car still needs some attention. You see the bracing dragging the racetrack right now in Garvey's machine. They've got the radiator straightened out, but they've got to do a lot of work with the bracing and with the brake ducts and so forth there. They've got to remove those fenders too. So Mike Garvey will take another opportunity to come back to the attention of the Lefebvre Racing team. We'll come back and sort it out for you from Anderson Speedway in a moment. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. Want to remind you that next week more Saturday night at the races action for you on TNN Motorsports. Great racing from the ASA. We'll head to the historic half mile at Salem, Indiana, the Tecumseh 300. Saturday night at the races live next Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern and Pacific right here on TNN Motorsports. And we look forward to making our first trip to Salem Speedway in the southern part of Indiana next week. A high banked, very fast half mile, and Butch Miller almost the opposite of what we see at a place like this.
Complete opposite. But I think the pits here are kind of unique, the way you have to pit, and that half the field pits at one end of a figure-8 track and the other half pits at the other end of a figure-8 track. And in ASA's smart thinking, they always want to try and keep the guy on the lead lap. So they let him go early, and they end up making an extra lap in the infield, and that's what's keeping Garvey on the lead lap right now.
Show you what we mean. If you were with us back when we opened up the season down at DeSoto Speedway in Bradenton, Florida, very similar layout, a little bigger racetrack, but the figure 8X is where those cars pitted as well. Very close down there. Mike Miller told me earlier that you want to pit toward turn 1. You want to qualify well and pit toward turn 1, and that's one of the keys to the drivers who've been able to run up front here this afternoon. One of the things that's worked well for several of these teams. Back underway, 79 laps of 400 are complete. St. Amant still your leader in the 7. There's Landis in the black and white 07. Sauter in the blue and white 9, riding 3rd. Gilchrist in the red and white machine, the 52 car, is 4th. Jimmy Johnson sits 5th. Ricky Johnson is 6th. Top 5, top 6 cars, nose to tail. Jimmy Johnson starting to rumble a little bit now. Disappointing qualifying effort. Jimmy starting in 10th spot today, but he's worked his way up to 5th. The driver who came in here with some question marks to this race today, Jim.
He did lead 245 laps 1 year ago, but the most recent question mark is his health. He has a very bad case of the flu. He said he felt weak. He had the shivers. He talked to anyone and everyone who would offer some suggestions, whether it be a wannabe doctor or, hey, this is what I did when I was sick. He actually asked Mike Miller, who won at Berlin, but had to almost get assistance out of the car while suffering the flu. So at a track like this where not a lot of air comes in the car, it's critical for Johnson to stay liquefied and have a lot of fluids, but he said he felt better right before the race, but this is going to be a long afternoon if he's feeling a bit under the weather.
As in much of the country in this July Sunday afternoon, it is muggy and very warm. Temperature over 90 degrees here today. The sun's been in and out this afternoon. We had rain this morning, but it didn't do much to cool things off. Very, very humid, so it will be a tough afternoon's workout for these ASA drivers. Watching Gilchrist in the 52, Jimmy Johnson in the 44 as they battle it out for 4th and 5th. Gilchrist with the 2 wins this year. Jimmy Johnson with 1 at Memphis Motorsports Park several weeks ago. Our last visit with you on TNN Motorsports. Ricky Johnson, Dave Sensiva, the 94 machine, all in the hunt as well. Ricky Johnson 6th, Dave Sensiva is 7th, the 94. A couple of laps down, that's Freddie Bear. He's being shown back in 15th position.
Freddie Bear is one of the 7 drivers out of Indiana here this weekend. You would think Grand Rapids or Milwaukee had been the home of ASA's race teams, but now the Hoosier State has come forward with a number of drivers for this event.
Kind of looks like Bill Elliott out there.
He's got that kind of Dale Earnhardt Jr. paint job on the side of the car. It's got the black striping along the quarter panels of that machine, too. So, interesting combination for the 94 of Freddie Bear. Working by Mike Thomas's 41 again. Tim Taylor in the 28 getting in the hunt. He is 8th. Taylor with a good run going.
Tim has roughly 10,000 laps here in a modified. It's his first ASA start, but Tim really likes the high banks of Anderson. Pretty much won at will in an IMCA style modified on the pavement, but it's a whole lot different in this car. But you can see his experience is paying off. Not a lot of body damage on the car, and considering that he's up to 8th after starting 22nd, he's on a fine pace.
Bear not on the same lap. Now coming up on Tristan Dupuis' lap machine. Dupuis, if you weren't with us at the top of the broadcast, he was involved in our first major skirmish just a couple of laps in up in turn 3. He and Dave Doran got into it along with a couple of other cars. Ken Alexander involved. They got Dupuis' machine back on the racetrack, but he will struggle for a good finish here today. This the battle for second. It's been raging since the drop of the green. Tim Sauter trying to get by the outside pole sitter Jack Landis in the 07. Still unable to do it. There's your leader, St. Amant. Sauter's got a lane to work with down low, but Landis evidently getting that car off the corners just well enough to maintain second spot.
That bottom groove's very hard to pick up traction off the corner, and that's exactly what Sauter's having a problem with right now. He can roll underneath him. Landis is giving him all the room, but he just can't accelerate with Landis.
Talked to some folks here early in the day who tell me that this is pretty much the same pavement that they've raced on in Anderson for a couple of decades. You don't see that much anymore.
And this is the first daytime event that ASA has held here. 400 laps under the lights in Anderson in mid-August has been the staple of this racetrack, and along with the Little 500, one of the highlights of the season for Anderson Speedway, who runs a weekly show on Wednesday and Saturday nights. But as you mentioned, the pavement has been a question mark at other facilities with new pavement under daytime conditions. Here at Anderson, the track is so weathered and used to being run on during the day, in the evening. Just a question mark if the ASA cars could survive on the daytime pavement here at Anderson.
A couple of cars down in the infield. David Anspaugh's 37. We saw the 41 of Mike Thomas off the surface as well. They come back up on the racetrack and there's no caution, so we'll stay green coming up on the first 100 laps of the day to be put in the books. St. Amant will click off lap 99 right here. Landis now starting to rumble a little bit as lap traffic comes into play. He closes in on St. Amant.
Gary checked up quite a bit coming up from turn number 4 when we saw Thomas through the grass, and Gary then lost a number of car lengths to Landis as they go through traffic now.
Trying to work around the 90 of Herb Eddy. Several laps down, the orange and white machine on the inside. Landis will come right up behind St. Amant. Sauter in the 9. Running in 3rd spot. Here's a look at how Gary St. Amant has fared over the years at Anderson Speedway. This is his 14th start today, 2nd pole here. 9 top 10s and had the win 2 years ago. August of 1997. He's led 4 of these PayLess 400s over the years. Last year's winner, Scott Hansen, not with us today, racing a NASCAR Craftsman truck at Nazareth Speedway in Pennsylvania. Eric Gilchrist driving the car that Hansen rode so successfully for so long and has it up in 4th spot. So, been a good afternoon for that team.
And Gilchrist is really one of the drivers I thought would be stronger today in qualifying and in the race itself in the 52 Grease Lightning Chevy, because he grew up on racetracks like this, coming from the All-Pro ranks into ASA. He's got a lot of experience on very small, tight racetracks. His wins at New River Valley this year and at IRP came at tracks he had never been to before. This is another track that he has seen for the first time today in ASA.
And he's done a great job of keeping the fenders on the race cars so far here in the first 100 laps. Jimmy Johnson in the 44, riding in 5th spot right behind. No change up in front. It's still St. Amant. The 07 of Landis, the 9 of Sauter, the 52 of Gilchrist, the 44 of Jimmy Johnson. Tim Taylor shown 6th right now in the 28 car. A sun-splashed crowd filling Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. Back with plenty more in a moment. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. Trouble up in turn 2. The 94 car spinning, backing into the fence. Freddie Bear from Indianapolis, the Durabuilders Pontiac. He's got some cut-down tires, and we're going to be back under caution here. We were just talking while we were away how smoothly things were going. Things had settled down nicely, and we were looking forward to a good second 100 laps of action here today. But Freddie Bear had problems up in turn 2 and backed it up into the wall. He's going to lead the work of a record, looks like, to bring the 94 car back on the pit road. Several cars have stopped on the racetrack to give him room to drop down and move out of the way. In fact, Bear has taken his helmet off and dropped the window net down. So looks like he expects his afternoon to be over after that trip up into the concrete. So we're back under caution once again here at Anderson Speedway. Gary St. Amant remains your leader. Pontiac pace car back up on the racetrack, and the wrecker is out as well. Bear was running all by himself up there in turn 2, and that incident happened. So many of the drivers will take the opportunity to head to pit road. Now, Butch Miller, you and I were talking before about how few pit stops you really need to make here. You might be able to do this in 1 or 2 stops.
Actually, this racetrack, as old as it is very easy on tires, and you could actually go the whole distance on one set of tires, but you're probably going to be a little bit quicker with new tires on. So they'll all change once, and this will probably be the last change to make.
Gary St. Amant leading the field, staying out. Dave Sensible will come on pit road, take on tires. Mike Garvey's crew taking a look at the 1 car as he goes by. Garvey, amazingly, as we watch Sensible's crew change right side tires, Garvey, for all that trouble and that big hard hit he took into the backstretch wall a while ago, has managed to stay just 1 lap down. He's being shown 14th, minus all that front body work, and having had the car take a very hard lick into the fence. So you'd have to think that Garvey is running exceptionally well with that car. Now, Tim Sauter has elected to come on to pit road. He's running 3rd. He's going to take tires. Downstairs we go to Brian Drever.
Well, the Build-A-Mold Chevrolet crew always quick in the pits, as quick as Tim is out on the racetrack. Came in with right side tire change, got him out in a big hurry, as did many of the other crews. These guys, as you said, Butch, are going to take their opportunity perhaps just to change 1 set of tires, although the heat out here today may make it different than what it has been in the past at Anderson.
Tim Sauter back on the racetrack with new right side tires. 2 tires good enough for you here, Butch, or do you need lefts at some point as well?
I think you can make the whole race on just 2 right side tires, and that's all you need. And you can almost run, you know, 400 laps sounds like a tremendous amount. It's only 100 miles. You can almost make it on a tank of gas.
And with a lot of caution laps, that will factor into that situation as well, as we watch Sauter back up on the racetrack. Well, the state of Indiana is known for many things, motorsports and basketball. And one of basketball's leading lights has joined us here in the booth. Reggie Miller, superstar of the NBA and the Indiana Pacers. Welcome. Good to have you here.
I'm telling you, my heart is pitter-patting. This is actually my first ASA event, and I don't know if I could take much more of this.
Any thought that these guys are not athletes
No.
as you watch them drive these race cars?
No, going around in such a competitive situation as this, these guys are true athletes. They wouldn't get the fan support that they got if they're not. So, you know, they're right up there with the Michael Jordans and the Larry Birds and the rest of the sports.
Now, Reggie, you're here as a guest of Russ Tuttle, who does personal security for yourself and individuals like Dale Earnhardt. So you came as a guest of his, but he's kind of hired to protect you. Have you been able to give him any words of advice here today?
You know, what is funny, because I'm with Russ so much during different functions, and he's always very nonchalant and loosey-goosey, and to actually see him in a competitive mode when he's the one that's so quiet and focusing in. I'm trying to, you know, cheer him up and lighten him up, and he's in that competitive mode. So I think that's probably why my heart is kind of pitter-pattering. Once you know someone out here and the speed of some of these cars, you know, personal safety and a friendship goes out. You know, I don't want him to get hurt out there, and then when I see his car all torn up like this, I'm like, come on, Russ, does it really mean that much to you to be out there?
Don't you want to put a helmet on and try this yourself, though, at some point?
Well, when I got here early, I looked at his car, and he's like, do you want to try to get in? I was like, look, if you could unfold my legs, if I could fit in one of these cars, I would, but absolutely not. I really respect this sport.
Well, we're glad to have you with us. Appreciate you stopping by. Reggie Miller of the NBA's Indiana Pacers joining us today, and a guest of Russ Tuttle. Tuttle on the Speedway with damage on the 16 car, but he is back in action here after an early trip. He was involved in that first wreck just a couple of laps in here this afternoon. Looks like we're ready to go green. There's an indication that perhaps Gary St. Amant is having some problems. We'll try to find out more about that. St. Amant back in the pack as the safety car has picked up the one of Mike Garvey for the time being. Scoring showing us that Mike Miller is the leader for now. St. Amant being shown back at 5th, but that is not correct. We understand. It looks as though St. Amant certainly will be the restart leader when we go green.
Mike Miller, the point leader coming into this event, had made an early pit stop on lap number 4 to change things around, looked at his staggers difference. He just came down pit lane again to change rear tires, so Miller looking at the long haul. Maybe it's his last time down pit lane, but he's not been a contender yet today.
Indications are that Tom Harrington in car number 8 is the leader as we go green. St. Amant making a quick trip to pit road evidently. Harrington up in turn 1 there, not stopping, so he is being shown as the car out in front.
And I tell you, what's also happened is Mike Garvey stayed out and stayed in the front of the pack, and I believe he's back on the tail end of the lead lap now.
Unbelievable for Garvey that he was able to massage things and work the pit strategy well enough. We saw him dive in and on off pit road 5 or 6 times during that long caution right after his incident.
They basically rebuilt that thing from end to end. I can't believe it's still running as fast as it is. He's probably turning laps right now that are as fast as anybody out there.
Well, Tom Harrington and Rick Beebe being shown at the top of the charts right at the moment as things get settled down. 129 laps are complete. Harrington, the veteran, doesn't run every race anymore, but he's a fine pilot. Raced this series regularly for many years. Ran All-Pro regularly for many seasons as well. Jimmy Johnson in the 44 car, the Herzog Chevrolet, the Pennzoil machine with problems evidently. Doesn't look like it though. It looks like he's at full speed. Derek Gilchrist in the 52. We watch Johnson down in 3. He's right behind Gilchrist, right behind Eddie Hoffman as well. At the moment, they're showing Harrington as your leader, Beebe in 2nd, Dave Sensiba in 3rd, and St. Amant 4. As we stay under green. Caution back out on the Speedway. There's some debris up on the racetrack. Looks like up in turn 3, they're going to have to send some ASA officials out to clean things up. So we are back under caution. Safety car will come back out. We'll sort out things scoring-wise here as we work our way toward halfway. ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series action on TNN Motorsports. We'll be back. Our exclusive coverage of the Payless Supermarkets 400 here on TNN Motorsports is being brought to you by Just for Men. It blends away gray in 5 minutes. Welcome back live to Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. The ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series here on TNN Motorsports. I'm Rick Benjamin. Butch Miller and Jim Trito are topside with me. Brian Drebber's on pit road today. Many of the strong runners have come to pit road during this caution, including Mike Miller. Let's head downstairs to Brian Drebber.
Well, the crew of the Jana King Pontiac has rolled around underneath the race car. They've already changed rights and left side tires, as have most of the drivers out there today. We're watching Mike go back out right now. But what really seems to have worked the best is for Mike Garvey to go out there, tear your race car all to pieces, pit 5 or 6 times, and then come in and go back out and just be hauling the mail. So Mike Garvey, they didn't know if that car was going to be any good at all, and it turns out to be better than most.
He has been very quick as we take a look at the Tecumseh number 1. Look at that. No driver's side sheet metal, which even at a quarter-mile racetrack, I'm surprised that aerodynamically he can be competitive with that car.
You know, this is one of the few racetracks where I think it doesn't make a hoot if you even have a spoiler on the thing. But what he's got an advantage right now is he's nice and cool in there. The rest of these guys are burning up.
Back underway. Tom Harrington in the 8 is your leader. Dave Sensiba in the 6 car runs in 2nd spot. Eddie Hoffman in the 5 runs 3rd. Jimmy Johnson in the 44 fighting illness today is 4th. As we watch Harrington try to hang on over Sensiba. Remember, we told you earlier in the broadcast, Harrington has come from 21st spot. Sensiba lined up 18th today. They have worked the cautions and the pit stop strategy very, very well. Now, it is very early. We're not to halfway yet. But I'm very impressed with the run both these drivers have put on as Hoffman starts to get racy as well in 3rd spot. He's been very quick today. Hoffman in the 5 has qualified well several times this year. Hasn't run well to the finish. Started from the 9th spot today. And look at him challenging here for 2nd as he works inside. Sensiba has the spot.
1 year ago, Steve Holtzhausen was behind the wheel of the structural transport Ford and finished 2nd to Scott Hansen. Had the lead well and late in the going until Hansen and Holtzhausen made contact. So we know the equipment's capable. And for his first visit here, Hoffman's pretty racy at this point in the event.
See, now this is the part where Sensiba is hoping that the 8 car sees him out there because he's pinching him into the wall almost every straightaway.
Sensiba with a strong run down into turn 3. Harrington, though, stays right with him. Sensiba to the outside for the lead, and he's got it. Give Dave Sensiba the point in the 6 car. Now Harrington backs up quickly. Here's Hoffman up high. Jimmy Johnson will go high, and they'll try to freight train around the 8 car. They'll do it.
Once you get that guy pinched down, he's in the position where he can't accelerate up off the corner, and the outside lane becomes the best.
We hear drivers talk about the car being bound up. Is that what we've got here?
Not necessarily. No, it's not bound up. What it is there just is no traction off the bottom of the racetrack here for some apparent reason, and he just can't step on the gas pedal without spinning the tires.
Dave Sensiba is now your leader in car number 6. He's got Eddie Hoffman and Jimmy Johnson with him, and Mike Garvey. Look at the car minus most of the sheet metal. That is Mike Garvey's Tecumseh Chevrolet. Amazingly, he is in the hunt. He is 4th behind Johnson. They have worked their way by Harrington. Harrington is now back to 5th. Sensiba in the 6, Hoffman in the 5. Talk about a couple of guys who've had no luck at all in the first half of the season. There are 2 of the prime candidates. Sensiba very stout. Brian Trevor, how happy are they down in his pits?
Said that this morning, Dave Taylor, the crew chief, said that they were so bad yesterday. Well, Butch, you can relate to this. They changed everything but the driver. 3 springs, 3 shocks, the sway bar. They crawled around under there and just about rebuilt the car overnight. Obviously, they guessed right about a lot of things, and the car is much, much faster here today, thanks to the hard work by Dave Taylor and the Prestige Truck Accessories crew.
You know, you need to tell Dave Taylor to tighten that thing up about a 1/4 inch in the rear stagger. He's just a tick loose from the middle off.
And Eddie Hoffman bringing Don Finetti's Ford right in there to try to help him get even looser going into the corners. So far, just a little bit of sheet metal contact, nothing more serious than that.
Got a glimpse of Tim Taylor just a moment ago in the 28 car. He spun actually on the backstretch, and there's quite a jumbled mess behind him, but everybody squared it up, and we continue on to green.
Top 3 cars, top 4 cars working their way out of the second corner here at Anderson, down the short back straightaway. Just a 1/4 mile around Anderson Speedway. Hoffman takes a look, lays the bumper to the back of the 6. But you told us at the top of the broadcast you needed a big stout bumper welded on the front of one of these cars if you wanted to win. Hoffman took your advice, I think.
He's just giving him little tiny taps right there, but it's enough to drive Sensiba nuts.
Hoffman in the black 5, Dave Sensiba in the white number 6, nose to tail, 1st and 2nd.
Hoffman's in his first season of racing, but his season best thus far is a 3rd at DeSoto Speedway, a similar racetrack, high bank, short oval. He finished 3rd there to start the season. It's his best thus far. He also has run quite a few laps at a track in Illinois called Rockford Speedway, which is similar in configuration.
Certainly want to give Eddie Hoffman his due. Hoffman is a great veteran. He ran the NASCAR Remax Challenge Series for several seasons. Did very, very well there. Races locally in Indiana and Illinois as well. Has a ride in a couple of different racetracks. Runs a lot of weekly shows, as well as being a regular in the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series. So Hoffman's got a lot of laps at a lot of places, and it's starting to show here now for him at Anderson Speedway. Sensiba, your leader. 2nd spot belongs to the machine of Jimmy Johnson. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Anderson, Indiana. A summer Sunday afternoon as we take a look at the Anderson Water Tower, and a huge crowd on hand here at the Anderson Speedway. Today's ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series action, the PayLess 400. And I'll tell you, if you bought a ticket to this one, you've gotten your nickel's worth just in the first half of this race. There's been a ton of action. Jimmy Johnson was in 2nd. He's on pit road to pick up left side tires. 6th caution of the afternoon as we work lap 165 here. There's the 1 car of Mike Garvey. That's the Lefebvre Racing Team putting some new shoes on that machine, which we talked about how the front end of that car could not be. It doesn't look square when he pulls it off pit road, but boy, they're quick.
They're as fast as anybody, and not a piece of sheet metal on the front of that thing.
Dave Sensiba getting some service as well. Let's go to Brian Drebber.
That's exactly right. The left side of the car up and down quickly here as the Prestige Truck Accessories crew got him in. He goes around Tom Harrington. Harrington's crew having a little more trouble. The car staying up on the jacks quite a bit longer. You can see fuel dripping out from underneath the car. It could be that something is wrong. Harrington's revving the engine desperately and now beginning to show a little bit of frustration. Finally, they give him the sign to put him down and away, and off he goes.
The Young Motorsports Pontiac back on the racetrack. Harrington had the lead for a while, but he coughed it up in that last sequence.
I believe that's the first time the Young Motorsports Pontiac has been down pit lane for Harrington.
He did not come down before. The lack of pit stops before kept him out there and got him an opportunity to lead several laps here in the first half of the action. Talked about several of the drivers who have shed pieces of sheet metal in the early going. Garvey coming back to pit road for more work on the 1 car. He was being shown as the leader at that moment, but he's going to give that up as he comes in for more adjustments. They're working still on the front end of that car, working on some sheet metal, it looks like, and working on the brake ducting in the left front corner of the 1 car down on pit road. There you see the crew. He's down and away, and will get back out. They have been excellent at getting him out before he loses a lap.
And he was in serious jeopardy of losing more than that. You see all the body panels missing, and the ability to run as high as 4th just before this caution flag says a lot about Garvey's abilities. And we mentioned how your front bumper has to be a vital necessity, Butch. He has nothing to rub but actual race tires to make a position change if you wanted to rub and go.
When he passes, he better pass fair, because he'll make his last pass if he passes using the front bumper.
Russ Tuttle, the Tyson Foods machine, looks like he's done for the afternoon. Tuttle's been caught up in a couple of skirmishes. Russ unbuckling, taking the helmet off. Looks like his afternoon is over. He stopped here on the main straightaway.
Notice he's wearing an open-face helmet, and he's run a closed-face helmet all season, as has Rick Johnson. Both those rookies decided to go open-face to get more air to their face in this hot afternoon.
Record comes to the service of the 16 car. They get the Tuttle machine off the racing surface and on pit road so that we can go green once again. 170 laps complete. We're not quite to halfway. We'll be back with more at Anderson. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports, and we are glad to be welcomed to Anderson Speedway. For all the latest NASCAR news, plenty of in-depth features, Ned Jarrett has Inside NASCAR for you, Saturdays at 4 o'clock Eastern, Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern, right here on TNN Motorsports. We'll join those folks each and every weekend. Back to green here at Anderson. Eddie Hoffman is your restart leader. Many of the front runners electing to head to pit road during that last caution for a couple of tires. Rick Beebe is second. Gary St. Amant has cycled back up to third. Look at Jack Landis back up to fourth now. Ricky Johnson rides fifth in the 22 car as the leaders work toward the back straightaway. Beebe takes a shot at Hoffman. Can't make the move. Brandon Sperling in the 40 car is in the mix, but he's still a couple of laps down. He pitted very early, the first 2 laps of the race with a cut tire. Here's Beebe to the inside of Hoffman. Hoffman getting taken out of the groove a little bit, but he's able to get that drive from the middle of the racetrack down to the straightaway. As Butch has said, you don't want to be low coming off the corners here to have some speed.
And Beebe's at a disadvantage because he cannot use that right front fender to lean on Hoffman if he had to.
David Doran can't use any front fenders anymore. They're gone. He came back on the racetrack. He's got trouble again. Looks like the right front corner has broken on the 77 car, and we're back under yellow. Dave Doran wrestling that car to the low side down through turns 1 and 2. So we are back under yellow. The Lista Pontiac for David Doran. All the front sheet metal came off in that early skirmish up in turn 3. 30 laps in, we had 4 cars jammed together. That got us going here this afternoon. Doran, with the 7th caution of the afternoon, heads to the garage, to his pit area. And he is going to go behind onto the grass. They'll take another look at it and see if they can possibly get the right front corner of that car put back together.
He also left a trail of fluid all the way around the groove in the racetrack and all the way right to where he's sitting right now. Right, there's a little line you could follow.
There it is. So we're going to be under caution for a while here. They're going to have to bring the track safety crew out, put some speedy dry down on that before we can go racing once again. So this may be a fairly lengthy caution period here this afternoon. Dave Doran unbuckling and climbing out. Understand there's a problem with Mike Garvey's machine, that he's going to be shown the black flag next time around. That's going to be a very tough break for Garvey, who has hung right in there. Ran up front for several laps. He's going to duck out of pit road, missing the driver's side door to that car.
And with the door gone, it's obvious to ASA officials, the lower, you see that whole gridwork of body roll bars. There should be a metal plate there protecting the driver's foot. It's in the ASA rule book. There has to be a metal plate along those roll bars on the inside, say about 16 inches back at the very left front edge of that roll bar area, and we don't see it there, so it may have broken loose in the incident, but that is a ASA rule. You can see the silver side of his shoe there.
That would be a horrible way for Mike Garvey to lose an incredible finish here today if he was missing something like that honestly doesn't affect the performance of the race car.
Actually, I believe there's supposed to be a plate on the whole side of that door to keep, it's called the Harold Fair rule, I believe, because at one point in Harold Fair's racing career, a front bumper actually came through and poked him in the kidney. And so ever since then, they've made a rule where there has to be a plate along the door bars. And somewhere along the line, that got ripped off in the wreck, I guess.
Well, you sent Jim Trado scurrying to the briefcase to dig up his ASA rule book. So Jim's going to get the magnifying glass out, see if he can find it in the fine print here. There's the Lefebvre Motorsports crew taking a look at the 1 car. They're going to try to reattach the door. Brian Drebber is there.
Well, guys, you saw the controversy going on. Everybody's got their rule books out trying to see what's supposed to be. But the bottom line is all the holes in the driver's cage are supposed to be covered up, filled up, and you were all over that one, Jim Trado and the rest. In any case, they black flagged Mike Garvey, and all the hard work that the Tecumseh crew has done, and he's done out on the racetrack, has, well, a lot of it's just been removed.
Well, Garvey is back on the racetrack now. In this situation, we'll have to check and see whether he is going to be scored this lap around, since he did take the black flag. If he loses a lap here, that would be a severe problem as he bids to try to stay alive in the points race and score a top finish. We saw the rule book a moment ago. It does indeed call for a plate on the roll cage on the inside. So we'll try to sort this one out for you, too. And come on back to Anderson. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports, the PayLess Supermarkets 400. Big controversy on pit road. Mike Garvey and his crew. There is supposed to be a safety door panel attached to the outside of the roll cage. It is a steel plate that has to be there. Brian Drebber, this doesn't look like it's going to be a sufficient fix, does it?
Well, the rule says it's got to be welded and it's got to be metal. What's happening right now is they're going to let them bolt it on, because that too is in the rule book, and I'm being shown that right now by one of the fellas from the Tecumseh crew. So as long as they bolt on the piece that they're working on, they're going to be okay, and they will be returned to scoring, but only after they do that.
Tough break, though, for Garvey, who has unofficially lost 5 laps during this incident. He had raced his way back into contention amazingly. With all the front bodywork gone, he was caught up in a wreck about 75 laps ago. This is going to take away his chances, I would think, for a strong finish today. And Garvey is very much in the points chase. Back underway, lap 189. Your leader is Eddie Hoffman in the 5. Rick Beebe in the 23 is second. Beebe's got some substantial body damage there, too. Gary St. Amant, the pole sitter, rides third in the 7 car. As we take a look at our race recap, just short of halfway, we've had 4 different leaders, only 3 lead changes so far, 7 cautions for 61 laps, and we have 14 cars remaining on the lead lap. Hoffman is out in front of the 5 car off that shuffle of all the pit work. Trying to tighten that car and keep it down low, unable to do so far. Hoffman maintains the point. And there's Beebe. St. Amant, the 07 of Jack Landis, the black Ford, he is 4th. Ricky Johnson is not next in line, but he is next on the scoring charts, riding 5th. 4th in that group of cars, the 40 of Brandon Sperling. Sperling is not on the same lap as the leaders. He has gotten a couple of his laps back, but he is being shown 2 laps down right now.
And every time I see Rick Beebe's car go by, I see that hood. It almost is leaning off the front of the car. We noticed that the rear hood mount, it's only hinged along where the front window meets the hood area, and then it's pinned to the front of the car along a rail with hood pins. And we see the hood pins doing the job, but we know the hood's broken loose from the car itself.
Beebe involved in a skirmish up in the 4th turn earlier. There you see some of that damage that he's racing with, and racing very well. We've been watching the right front corner of that car. It does indeed look like the hood is rubbing on the tire. Wouldn't think he could go with that for too many laps without having to stop and do something. And it looks as though that side of the car is down, as though there's something bent in there in the right front corner of that machine. St. Amant to the inside, looking for second spot. Brian Drebber, how's Beebe's situation developing?
Well, as bad as the situation is for Mike Garvey, it seems to be pretty good for Rick Beebe. While the crew, the Tecumseh crew, worked so hard at trying to get Mike back out there on the racetrack by bolting on a piece on the door, right across pit lane, the crew of the Meyer Pontiac, Ken Houck and the crew over there, they seem to be pretty relaxed and happy because their car is fast. Both were involved in the same incident, you might recall, and it just goes to show you one man's pudding is another man's poison sometimes.
Well, I'll tell you, the guy who found the pudding supply while we were discussing that was Gary St. Amant. St. Amant bolted inside the 07 of Landis and the 5 of Hoffman. Landis and Hoffman tangled briefly. We've got trouble on the backstretch. Jimmy Johnson, hard impact. The Herzog Chevrolet, the 44 car, the Pennzoil machine, sustaining heavy front damage. We were just going to get ready to tell you about Gary St. Amant, and now he had rocketed back to the point, and Johnson has run into some serious difficulty. The hood of the Pennzoil machine hanging by a thread there. It's going to come off as Johnson heads to the backstretch pits. His crew will jump into action. Howie Letow and the gang will go to work on the front of that car. halfway. We just took the cross flags at lap 200. Brian Dripper, what's the situation?
Well, obviously, Howie Leto and the Pennzoil crew are working very hard. Their biggest problem is they've got a lot of sheet metal, well, in this case, fiberglass, all wrapped up underneath the car. Now they finally got the radiator shroud off. They've got a lot of loose ductwork. All the brake ducting, of course, is attached to the bodywork in the front. And as Jimmy Johnson pulls away, he runs over his own brake duct. Chances are they've sent him out, of course, to keep from going a lap down. Now they'll bring him in and make some additional repairs.
So Johnson circles the racetrack out in front of the safety car. He'll have to come back in. There you see the brake duct waving around on the right front corner of the car. He'll duck inside the 41 of Mike Thomas and jump back in. Now he has one of the front pit areas, one of the pits that are on the first turn section of the X here at Anderson. Trying to show you what happened here as the cars work off of 2. There's Sperling, Ricky Johnson. There's a little checkup by Sperling. Johnson and Tim Sauter get on the brakes, and Jimmy Johnson was caught up in that a little further back. He and Mike Miller tank.
He was running pretty tight with him there, Butch, but they got awfully tight in turn 3.
Something happened in front of the 22 car, and it was out of the camera shot, and everybody checked up, and it just got terrible by the time it got back to Jimmy Johnson.
It's the second race in a row. Johnson has caught some air under the car. He went over the side of Tristan Dupuis last race at Cedar Rapids while running for top 5 position, and here well in the top 10. He was racing very hard with Mike Miller in the point of the race there, where he was trying to make his move on Miller, and they got together.
Well, you know, we saw how fast the one car was with missing the whole front end. This doesn't look to be near as serious as the damage on the one car, and I don't think this will slow him down one iota.
The bracing is bent. Now that's what holds the front bodywork on the car and also the radiator ducting. But other than that, it doesn't look like there's any geometry that's been changed up front. It's hard to tell, of course, from where we are. But the car looks to be more square, at least, than Garvey's did when he brought it on pit road. Johnson's car back to pit road. He maintains his lap, not losing a lap there. Looks like Mike Miller's getting ready to come in and clean the front radiator, the front screen of the radiator of the 44 car. Have to peel away some of the brake duct work. Rick Beebe's crew taking a look at the 23. We mentioned that it looked as though that car had a little extra camber on the right front corner, and as though the car was starting to ride low on the right front side as it worked the high banks here, as though something might be bent or perhaps even broken there. The Meyer Stores crew, they sent Beebe back out, so they assume that he is okay, or at least will need one more quick stop to finish up the work. So Beebe jumps back up on the racetrack. Gary St. Amand will be your restart leader when we continue from Anderson Speedway. Back under beautiful sunny skies in central Indiana, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports. And a reminder, this season you have the opportunity to win a Uniden Bearcat scanner, plus a 1-year Racers Frequency membership from Racing Electronics. Your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 241-921 Charlotte, 28224 will announce the winner during each ASA telecast here on TNN. Send in your card today. Our winner this week, Greg Hansen, Lakewood, Colorado. Greg, enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics. Back under green, 209 laps on the board. Gary St. Amand is your leader in the 7, whistling by. Eddie Hoffman in the 5, Jack Landis in the 07. The 2 Ford Thunderbirds running 2nd and 3rd. Landis has the spot right now over Hoffman. Ricky Johnson being scored 4th in the white 22. That's the other Herzog Chevrolet. Good buddy Jimmy spending a lot of time on pit road. The 44 car back on the racetrack with some work done on it. We'll see where he ends up. Jimmy Johnson being shown 12th right now on the lead lap. So Howie Leto and the bunch did a super job, just as we saw Mike Garvey's team do earlier, getting the sheet metal, or rather the fiberglass, the front bodywork peeled away from that car, taking care of all the repairs necessary and getting him out there without any laps being lost. Here's Tim Sauter in the 9, working on Ricky Johnson. This is for 4th spot up in turn 2. Eric Gilchrist is right there as well. Gilchrist sitting in a contending spot right now. We're checking to see where he's being shown scoring-wise. He's being shown back in 6th, and this is for position. We've got Ricky Johnson riding 4th. Sauter is 5th. Derek Gilchrist is 6th. Tim Taylor in the 28, a couple of car lengths back in 7th spot. The 40 of Brandon Sperling still not back on the lead lap, although he's done a good job to hang in there. He's back in 15th. You see Greg Stewart's 33 being lapped by. Talk about cars with a lot of damage getting back into the hunt here today. Stewart's back running at least, although he has not been competitive since coming back on the racetrack.
The leaders have all their body panels on their cars yet, but we saw in 1993 here at Anderson Speedway, Scott Hansen actually win the race minus his hood. The car was overheating. They had some problems. They got in an accident, kind of accordion effect where the hood actually broke off the car. They took the hood off for cooling reasons, and he won the race. So we've seen cars that have had no front clip on the car finish in the top 5. We've seen cars that are 5 laps down finish in the top 10. This is a very high attrition race. And as Dick Trickle would say, a high nutrition race, because you got to be, well, you know, you got to do everything right. You got to have the luck, and as we see the top 6, top 8 cars, you got to have the whole body on the car, it seems like.
Well, Eddie Hoffman in the 5, sitting in 3rd spot, leading this group of cars. He's got all his bodywork pretty much intact. Got some donuts on the door panels, but they get served for breakfast around here pretty normally at a short track like Anderson Speedway. Ricky Johnson, 4th to open the season at DeSoto, best finish of the year. He's in front of Sauter right now as they battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Derek Gilchrist is back there in the 52 car. He is in 6th position. Good run for Derek today. Aside from his 2 wins, he's had problems finishing in a good position. That's why he is only 10th in points right now.
Rick Johnson right now is doing a very good job here, Rick. He was saying to me earlier, he said, we're satisfied with 8 top 10 finishes, but we want to run top 3. We're trying to run top 4. And Derek Gilchrist has those 2 wins to even compound that whole rookie chase. Johnson's the point leader in that category, but wins are wins, and Johnson wants to win a race come soon. Mike Garvey back on the racetrack. They've evidently secured a body panel inside. We talked earlier about how there was a safety panel missing from the left side of the roll cage where the driver sits. The Lefebvre crew successfully attaching that panel to satisfy the ASA technical inspectors. He's back in competition running 18th, but he lost, well, call it 15, 16 laps in the exchange there. Mike Miller in the 18 car, haven't talked much about him. Mike's sitting 9th right now. He's been on pit road a ton today. Told me during race day, we were on the air, of course, live from the Speedway this morning for our weekly broadcast of TNN's race day, and had Mike on the show. He mentioned that he never finished an ASA race here. He was trying just to finish today more than anything else. The best finish is a 10th in 8 starts. Let's get downstairs. Brian Drimmer has some thoughts.
Guys, talking about Mike Miller, they've been in here a bunch of times. You said that, and the laundry list of why has pretty much run the gamut. They broke a power steering belt early. They fixed it. Then they came in again, took the old one off so it wouldn't interfere with the new one.
But we've got a
big accident there up in coming out of turn number 2. But the Miller crew also did a little bit of body work, and that seems to be the secret to success here. Take off a few body panels, your car's faster.
Several drivers are going to lose a few body panels, it looks like, as they come off the 2nd corner. Rick Beebe is involved. Tom Harrington in the 8, Jimmy Johnson in the 44. Among those stacked up, it all started, we believe, with Derek Gilchrist. I was checking some notes, looked up and saw Gilchrist slowing in the middle of the backstretch. Looks as though he may have touched off that chain reaction pileup. Jimmy Johnson on the gas hard, spinning the 44 car around to get some help from his crew. Gilchrist stopped in the middle of the backstretch. Johnson backing up to the attention of his bunch. And a wrecker's going to have to come and help the 52 car out of the way. So more problems at Anderson Speedway. The Payless 400. Rick Beebe drops the window net. We'll come back and sort it out for you in just a moment. That about sums it up. Rick Beebe with a cold towel to try to cool off on a hot summer afternoon at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. Beebe, one of the top contenders here today. He's run up front all afternoon, but trouble on the backstretch. Looks as though it's taken the Meyer Stores Pontiac out of the hunt, at least for now. Derek Gilchrist, driver in trouble. He was at the front of that pileup. He's standing by downstairs. Brian Drimmer.
Well, and obviously Derek Gilchrist is not very happy about the turn of events. Derek, what happened that started it all out? We kind of saw what ended it.
No, I really don't know what happened. It felt like something went out in the right front, you know, like a shock bracket broke or something. I really don't know. We just kind of sitting there biding our time, had a lot of laps left, and felt like the 22 car was holding me in the 9 up, and we was working them pretty hard. Didn't want to take a chance of getting a lap down or anything, you know, but the 7 car was setting a pretty good pace, so we was trying to stay up front as close as we could, and just hated we had a real good race car. I'd like to thank Grease Lightning, and Robert Hamke's frame was good today. We had the shock springs really dialed in. I felt like we'd have been in tension at the end. It's a really bad deal. I don't think we'll be able to go back out no more today.
Good day goes bad awful quick here at Anderson.
Yeah, it does, I tell you. But these guys work real hard, and they'll work hard and try to get it back out there, but I don't think it'll happen.
Well, tough break. Derek Gilchrist out of the race by his own admission anyway. We'll have to wait and see if he does, in fact, get back in.
Derek Gilchrist, a strong rookie contender, 2 wins on the season, running well. We talked about how strong he appeared to be running today. He's knocked the back end out from under the 52. We can see it going by on the hook. That car has severe back end damage as well. Rick Beebe's car sustaining a heavy lick. Gilchrist stopped in the middle of the backstretch and traffic stacked up behind him. Beebe took a couple of hard shots. We'll try to talk to Rick here in a couple of minutes as well, but it looks as though the Meyer Stores Pontiac will not be back. There's Gilchrist's car as we watch a replay bouncing into the second turn wall. I looked up and saw him stopped right here in the middle of the backstretch. Hoffman just gets by. Here comes the car of Garvey. Sperling gets by, but then that set everything off. Dupuis involved, the 8 car of Tom Harrington, and Beebe tagging the fence very hard. There's Gilchrist bouncing into the outside wall. Hoffman checks up. Taylor just gets by. Sensiba. Mike Miller to the inside sneaks by. There goes Garvey up to the high side with the 40 car. There's Dupuis, and there you see Beebe and Jimmy Johnson just piling in very hard there.
You know, I'm looking at the replay here, and it does not look like the right front tire is blown out. So he apparently did break a shock mount, an A-frame, something that caused the car to drop down and go up and hit the wall.
He knocked the rear end out of it on that final lick against the wall, and it looked like Harrington and Dupuis started that next chain reaction bunch with Harrington get turned around. Beebe got sandwiched in the wall, and Johnson just center punched him with his left front wheel. All of those cars are, I believe, out of the event.
And the tire still has air in it.
Yeah. But lots of damage underneath on the crew, the Robert Hamke team. Ken Schrader Racing, jacking that car, putting it on jack stands. They're going to go underneath and look and see what they need to do, if there's anything they can do to try to straighten out.
I think if I was Derek, I wouldn't go very far because they're looking like they want to put that thing back together.
Well, he had a great run going, and certainly he's in the thick of the points chase, especially the rookie points chase. So they've got a lot of incentive to try to get the car back in. We've still got 165 laps to run here this afternoon, so it's not as though you wouldn't spend a good bit of time on the racetrack if you can get back in competition. But it's been an afternoon of heavy attrition, certainly. And a lot of drivers have had high hopes today that have come crashing down around them. Still under caution, the Rick Beebe crew taking a look at the 23 car, and Brian Drebber standing by with a pilot of that machine.
Well, naturally, it's never a happy moment when we talk to a driver before the race is over. Rick, this place bites you quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Meyer, Frechetta, Banquet Foods, Pontiac. Anderson's a great racetrack, but unfortunately got a whole bunch of race car drivers that must have unhooked it this morning when they got in the car. And it's a shame because it's a fun place to race, but you got to use your head a little bit, and unfortunately nobody's doing it today.
You gotta hate being out this early, don't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, got a wreck hard off the bat and got everything messed up a little bit. Guys worked hard, got it back close, and you don't have to have a perfect car here, and we were okay. I mean, we would have had a run there, but the lap cars today just seem to want to race everybody, so it's going to be a tough day for everybody.
Back upstairs, guys.
Tough break indeed for the Merriam, Kansas veteran. Rick Beebe out of the action, at least for the time being. Jack Landis in second spot there in the 07. Gary St. Amant in the 7 car is your leader. Ricky Johnson in the 22 riding third. Watch Landis. Right behind him now, Tim Taylor. You talked about him, Jim, earlier. He has done a great, quiet, but great job today. He's raced his way up to 4th, and he's got Dave Sensiba, who's still back in the hunt, in 5th. Sensiba to the outside wants that spot from Taylor. Down the main straightaway into 1. Sensiba working well up high now, and he's going to take the spot away. So give Sensiba 4th, Taylor back to 5th. Look at Garvey hanging right in there. He is back in 18th, though, several laps down on board in the Tecumseh Chevrolet.
Considering this is Tim Taylor's home track, his best placing thus far this year has been at 12th. He's run every event, so to run in the top 5 at Anderson, I know he was in the grandstands 1 year ago after making a handful of starts last season, so he at least watched how they do it here, and now he's got a chance to perhaps record his best career finish at ASA.
Taylor looks very, very strong. Garvey has worked his way by. They lap by the 90 car of Herb Eddy. Taylor down into 3.
You know, Rick Beebe said that everybody kind of like left their brains at the back gate. Well, when you come to Anderson for the 400, that's required. You have to leave your brains at the back gate and you just go out there and just do whatever feels good.
Drive on instinct.
That's right.
It happens fast here. These are 13-second laps these drivers are flicking off today. Ricky Johnson, Sensiba, Garvey, and Tim Taylor in the 28. Johnson is 3rd. Sensiba 4th. Taylor 5th. On board with Garvey as we watch Sensiba's progress.
Sensiba is about the only car out there that I think has anything for Gary, and I'd like to see Sensiba on Gary's tail just to see what could happen.
Dave making his 6th career start here at Anderson Speedway. He's been on the pole once, a couple of top 10s, was 5th here a year ago. His best finish in his 5 previous trips to Anderson Speedway.
And his crew has just been given the green light to move their pit equipment from the back half of the X to the front half to take where Rick Beebe's position was. Beebe's out of it. So ASA rules state that if there is a pit stall open on the front half, the best 13 pit stalls, Sensiba's moving his equipment there. That could play a huge factor in Sensiba pitting a lot quicker and a lot sooner on this racetrack to get track position.
Mike Garvey working on Jack Landis. Remember, Garvey is not on the lead lap. He's racing very hard, though, back in 15th spot now. Picking up positions as many drivers have had trouble and lost laps here today. The 07 of Landis is your second place machine. Garvey trying to race his way by and get up and work on Gary St. Amant to get a lap back.
But how disheartening is it knowing that if you were Mike Garvey right now, knowing you had a fast enough car to pass second place, yet you knew you had a problem, you're not really in the hunt.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a little disheartening to know that you're that fast. I don't know as I actually agree with how hard he's racing right now, because I think he is 15 or 20 laps down. I think that he needs to let the guys go that are able to race for the win right now and needs to get out of their way.
Landis just got sandwiched back behind the lap car, and he lost a couple of spots.
17 laps unofficially is the count we have that Garvey is behind the leader. But remember, he's in the top 15. He's 15th right now. Here's Landis and Tim Taylor. Landis got shuffled back, as you said, Jim, a couple of positions. Landis trying to hang on in front of Taylor. It looks as though Landis has slowed down a little bit. He's able to run in the front pack of cars, but he's not as strong as he was earlier.
Kind of almost looks like he's got a soft tire or something, because he's awful loose up off the corner.
They are battling for 5th and 6th, and this is your leader, Gary St. Amant, the pole sitter. He has been the dominant car here this afternoon. Off the pit stop shuffle, Gary has raced his way back to the point. He's got a 2-second lead over Mike Miller. Back live, ASA action on TNN Motorsports, and we've had a lead change while we were away. Mike Miller has taken over in the Jana King Pontiac, the 18th car, from 8th starting spot. Miller, who's never finished one here, has raced his way by Gary St. Amant. It looks as though there may be a problem with St. Amant's machine. He has started backpedaling severely. We saw Mike Garvey get by and get a lap back. Miller went by too, as did Sensiba. So St. Amant is back in 3rd. Brian Dripper, what are they saying down in the 7-car pits?
Well, I talked to Bud and to all the crew down here, and they're all saying, no, everything is okay. The only thing they did offer is that they have to stop another time they want right side tires. They say he's just riding, and they're waiting for a caution to make their car better and get back up there with the guys that have stopped more often.
Sure looks as though St. Amant has slowed down quite a bit, though, in the last several laps. I mean, he has given up a tremendous amount of ground, and I would think as we come up on 100 to go here fairly shortly, you don't want to give up that much track position.
And he was two seconds quicker than the drivers that he's now been passed by. He's a half a second slower per lap than the rest of the competition, including Mike Miller and Dave Sensiba. That's your battle for the lead. Garvey in the 1 car several laps down. He got 1 lap back in that exchange, but Mike Miller is now the leader, and Miller's now going to go back by Garvey, it looks like. Sensiba in the 6 car right with him in 2nd. St. Amant still being shown in 3rd, but he's about a straightaway behind. We've got caution, so this may fall to Gary St. Amant and the Bud Gebben team. Tim Taylor has spun between 1 and 2, and he has got problems. Looks like he backed into the wall, back into that car, folded up pretty thoroughly. So Taylor, who was running in the top 5, was sitting 6th at the moment. Looks as though his great run will come to an early end, and all that experience here at Anderson may not pay off for him in this instance, and that would be a very tough break because Taylor was giving it a great ride today. You look at the right front, that's bent. You look at the right rear, that's bent. That was a hard flick into turn number 1. It happens quickly here at Anderson, as it does at any quarter mile. If you visit your local short track and it happens to be a quarter mile and you've seen a lot of racing there around the country, you know that on a track of this dimension, it can happen very, very quickly. You can be riding along, feeling great, very strong with your race car, and all of a sudden somebody jumps out in front of you, and that wall gets there pretty darn quick, and that's what happened to Tim Taylor. There's Garvey. Here's St. Amant looking like he wants to bolt onto pit road. His crew standing by. Got tires in hand for the 7 car. Looks like they'll try to make an adjustment based on what Brian Drebber told us just a moment ago. Get ready for the last 125 laps. There'll be 125 to go. Next time down, here comes St. Amant, the series champion and the pole sitter today. Sensiba to pit road as well. Also, the 9 of Tim Sauter, Ricky Johnson, Jack Landis on pit road, and Mike Miller's on pit road. Brian Drebber, busy place down there.
Certainly is, guys. Right here at Tim Sauter's pit, they're changing left side tires. By contrast, Mike Miller changed rights, and he's already driving past. and Gary St. Amant's crew. They're always fast. They were the ones that needed to stop. They got it, and they made the most of it.
Gary St. Amant comes off pit road with the lead, so if they succeeded in fixing the car, you can expect to see St. Amant start to haul the mail once again here. Jack Landis off pit road successfully. Here comes Brandon Sperling back out. St. Amant and Miller and Sensiba came off pit road in that order. And the 5 of Eddie Hoffman, the 9 of Tim Sauter in that order as well. Looks as though Alec Pinsino will be picked up as the leader at this point, although he did not stop. Pinsino had trouble earlier and spun once. Garvey's back on pit road with the 1 car, so the lap he got back, he'll give up here.
I've got some clarification from ASA officials on the door plate. We see the yellow tape holding the white panel in. Steel door plates have been mandatory in ASA since prior to 1992 when they developed the new car. It is the team's option to either bolt or weld the plate in place, and he didn't have one, so they had to do something. They bolted it on the car.
Good pit work. First time I've seen one of those repairs made on pit road, but it was nicely done by the Lefevre team. We're going to take a quick time out and come right back for more ASA action at Anderson Speedway. We're back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. Hope you can join us next week, 11 o'clock Eastern and Pacific time on Sunday. We'll be back with race day from our Charlotte studios. Preview the afternoon's Winston Cup round, of course, at Pocono Speedway in Pennsylvania. Plenty of coverage, of course, of the ASA. We're at Salem in Indiana next Saturday night, live here on TNN. We'll have coverage of the World of Outlaws, CART, the Indy Racing League, the NASCAR Busch Series, and a whole lot more. Next week, race day, 11 o'clock Eastern and Pacific time. We are green again, 119 laps to go. Gary St. Amant is your restart leader, getting down to time to show your hand. Butch Miller, you're smiling at.
I'm just looking at this 33 car leading the pack. He's several laps down, but look how fast he's going. No nose, no tail on that thing, no spoiler, no anything, and he's going fast.
Still out there, still turning laps in competition on board. The Janet King Pontiac and Mike Miller riding in second spot behind Gary St. Amant. If that's the way this one settles down, these two veterans battling each other for the victory today, it ought to be a great last 50 laps here at Anderson. They shuffle through the traffic. There's St. Amant, your leader. Miller is second. Brian Drever, they've been working on Mike Miller's car all afternoon. They're going to be pretty happy with where they are now as we see the Crookston 40 car, Brandon Sperling, get in the wall. There'll be no caution, it appears. Sperling stays under power. So let's go back and talk about Mike Miller. Brian, what have they done down there to get him back to where he likes to be?
Well, guys, you name it, they've done it. I talked to Coleman Sutton, who's Miller's partner, when they're away from the racetrack, and he said, I don't have them all, but we've stopped at least 8 times. They've stopped to change a power steering belt. They've stopped to change tires. And Butch Miller said, you know, one stop might do it all, or even go all the way on one set. Miller's guys have changed tires a whole bunch of times.
Alec Pinsino on the 93 off the base. I think one stop would do you today if you're out here by yourself. But with all the carnage we've had, I think you'd almost have to stop half a dozen times or more. Gary St. Amant continues to lead, the pole sitter today, but this has been anything but a Gary St. Amant benefit. This is the 3rd time he's led. He's led a lot of laps, but he's also spent a lot of laps chasing a lot of different drivers today.
He started on the pole position, his 19th time in the lead the field down, and I thought, really, honestly, he was going to dominate the early portions of this race. Jack Landis kept it close. Then the series of pit stops. Mike Miller coming back through the field. He was well back as far as 16, and he's now challenging for the lead at this point. Also, another note, guys, 10 cars are now behind the wall.
Wow. 16 cars left in competition, and we've got more than 100 laps to go. 110 to be exact. St. Amant down in turn 1, working on Harold Fair in the 81. Fair restarted in front of Gary. He is not on the lead lap, but he is sitting 8th.
He's at the very tail of the lead lap, I've just been told, and he's trying to stay there with Gary behind him.
If you look at that 81 car, the rear end is knocked to the back, so he looks like he's running at Eldora right now. That thing runs down the straightaway at about a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, you see there the bodywork on the car covering the right rear tire pretty thoroughly. So something is definitely askew in the 81.
It hasn't hurt a thing because he's still running fast.
St. Amant in the 7, Mike Miller in the 18, battling for the top. There's Fair's record at Anderson, his 17th trip here. Won this race back in 1990, 9 years ago. 8 top 10s. Led that race back in 1990 for 162 laps. And took home the big check at the end of the night. Harold trying to hang on. Nice job at 8th spot here today. Leaders riding nose to tail right behind him. Harold is just quick enough that St. Amant can't get by. Got a glimpse of the McDonald's Chevrolet, the Crookston Motorsports machine. Brandon Sperling, he's had trouble twice. Thought he might bring out a caution a few moments ago because he clipped the wall and slowed way down, but he was able to get it back going in the right direction. Riding with Mike Miller in the Janiking machine. Taking a look back at race leader Gary St. Amant directly in front. Miller goes to the high side now. Let's see if that middle groove might work. With all the tire stops these leaders have made, we ought to be good to go to the finish at this point. The interesting thing will be to see if we have another caution. You have to think we will, if either driver will decide to commit for a couple of tires. Traveling here at Anderson Speedway. Lap speed average only 70-some miles an hour here, but it's pretty darn quick.
You know, Gary just is not as strong as he was earlier in the race. Something, I think you're right, Rick, something is not quite as good as it was. Something has changed on that car.
With as heavy as the traffic is, though, guys, it may be good enough. Mike Miller's not been able to challenge on the outside or inside. We've seen some outside passes here today, but he's staying glued to the back bumper of the Win Chevy.
Now, if you were with us at Nashville back in the month of May, you saw Miller in this position behind Jimmy Johnson, wanting to win badly. Gave Johnson the bump and run with a couple of laps to go to take the win. I wonder if he'll be able to try the same thing on St. Amant. St. Amant with a lot more experience in these ASA machines. I have to think that he'll make it tougher on Miller than Johnson was able to back a couple of months ago. Inside 100 to go, and there's your battle for the lead. The 7 of Gary St. Amant, the 18 of Mike Miller. Sensima is back in third spot. Eddie Hoffman sits fourth. Tim Sauter rides fifth. But they are quite a bit behind this battle for the point. Here's Miller to the outside of St. Amant. He's going to try him down the backstretch. Miller gets the jump on Gary St. Amant, and he grabs the lead. Mike Miller takes over this afternoon. St. Amant backpedaling quickly, and you were right. Butch Miller, St. Amant is not as quick as he was before, and he is slowing down. You can see him giving up ground to Mike Miller quickly. There's Sensima and Eddie Hoffman. So Mike Miller is back out in front. We'll come back with more of ASA action in a moment. Welcome back to Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. The PayLess 400, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN Motorsports. I'm Rick Benjamin alongside Jim Trito and Butch Miller. Ryan Drepper is downstairs. Hope you've enjoyed a wild one. A lot of these ASA drivers watching the last 100 laps or so from the infield. 10 cars have been set behind the wall at this point, including many top runners. Rick Beebe, Derek Gilchrist, several others out of the chase. Lots of activity on the track, lots of activity on pit road. Gary St. Amant has led a bunch of laps today, but right now he's settled back in third. Eddie Hoffman in the 5 car has gone by him. They lap by David Anspaugh's 37 and the 03 of Ken Alexander. St. Amant and Tim Sauter now battling for third spot. And you're on board with Alexander, who suffered heavy damage in one of the early incidents here this afternoon. He moves out of the way and lets the quicker cars go by. St. Amant in the 7, Sauter in the 9. That is third and fourth, and here's Sauter to the high side. He wants the spot away. St. Amant's car, something has gone amiss in the Bud Gibbons Chevrolet here in the last 50 or 60 laps. And Gary held Mike Miller at bay for quite a while, but he's been unable to do it. The car just may not be as good on a longer run. Earlier when he was leading, we saw him drop back. They pitted, changed tires, adjusted the car. He picked up speed again. We'll see if that can happen here.
And Butch, there was mention of a clutch problem. With it being 20, 30, 40 laps into the green flag segment, can it slow that car down incrementally as we've seen?
Generally, when they say there's a clutch problem, they don't actually mean there's a real clutch problem. What they mean is there's a clutch linkage problem. So probably the clutch doesn't disengage. It stays engaged well, which means all he has to do is he has to shift not using the clutch, which isn't all that difficult.
Jack Landis in the 07 has been a contender much of the day, running at 7th spot. Eddie Hoffman moving by him. Landis has gone a lap down now unofficially. 6 cars remain on the lead lap. We show you our TNN Motorsports race recap after 315 laps. 5 different leaders, 8 lead changes. And here are the list of drivers not still in competition at this point. Brandon Brandon Sperling in the 40 has soldiered on today, although he's been involved in a couple of skirmishes. There's Hoffman in the 5, running in second spot. Sauter in the 9 now is third, and St. Amant in the 7. He's shuffled to the outside. He's back and forth. He's in danger of losing a spot. Dave Sensible right behind him in 5th. Sauter now starting to get going here in the late stages. We've got 74 laps to go. 3:26 on the board. St. Amant and Landis working on one another. Mike Garvey there in the mix as well, although Garvey still many laps down. 19 down according to our unofficial count, but Garvey has worked his way up to 11th spot, so he's going to score some points today. He whistles by St. Amant. St. Amant definitely fighting a failing race car at this point. Garvey, with all that damage, very stout when he is running on the racetrack. All of his time's been lost on pit road as a result of a couple of incidents. I'm amazed when I think back at how hard he hit that backstretch wall that car is even drivable.
Experienced crew took Kevin Swinski to a 1997 ASA championship, and Ken Lund has come over as the crew chief. Terry Garrison's the team manager for the Tecumseh team, and they really have a strong program.
Here are your top 2 cars. Mike Miller in the 18 is your leader. Eddie Hoffman in the 5 running second. As we take a look at Brandon Sperling's machine. 73 trips to go at Anderson. We'll be back. Welcome back to the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series live on TNN Motorsports from Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. The PayLess 400 final 100 trips. And we have got a new leader. Eddie Hoffman has been working all afternoon. He has just taken over the point, whipping by Mike Miller without much from Miller in the way of resistance. I'm really surprised it was that easy for him.
Well, he used that world-famous front bumper a little bit on Mike. Mike just said, well, I'm not faster than him. I might as well just take it easy, keep my car under control, and just follow him and basically let him by.
Miller, the series point leader, told us earlier today he just wanted to finish one. He's never finished one here before. Here's Hoffman, your leader. And now look at this. Tim Sauter is up to second spot behind Hoffman.
Hoffman hit the wall there, guys. Mike Miller's back in the lead.
Miller had gotten by while we were away and looking at Hoffman's machine, so Mike Miller is back out in front. Hoffman got up high and clipped the fence. He's still maintaining second spot, but the 9 of Sauter right back there fighting with him now for that position. So Tim Sauter picks up a break. Mike Miller picks up a huge break. With 56 laps to go, the complexion of this one has changed yet again. Hoffman got by Miller and was driving away.
Same thing happened to Jimmy Johnson at Nashville last year in his rookie season. He took the lead late in the event, and as the car freed up, he let it go free, and hit the wall, and Mike Garvey went on to win that race.
So there's Hoffman now back in second with Sauter riding in third. And Mike Miller has scooted away by a couple of seconds, so he's built a good lead once again here. Wondering what happened to Gary St. Amant. He has backpedaled all the way to 6th, and we're told that they would like to come in for tires. They feel like they need a caution to do it, and we've gone green now for many laps. The traffic has thinned out quite a bit. Only 15 cars left running at this point, so the odds of having another incident are not nearly as high as they were earlier on. There's St. Amant running alone down low. He's got Tristan Dupuis right with him. Harold Fair is next in line. Gary St. Amant, the last car on the lead lap at this point. And he is very slow off the corner. It looks as though he's got tires that have gone away completely on the number 7.
I'm just guessing that the 7 car here looks like they've had the left sides on for a while, and possibly that left rear has actually shrunk and opened up the rear stagger a lot, or it's worn out. If one or the other. But right now you see he's doing an awful lot of steering out there.
Trying hard to work his way around Jack Landis. Now Landis had contended for a long time. He's fallen back to 8th. 50 laps remaining. 50 to go. St. Amant hoping for a caution so they can come in for rubber. Perhaps an adjustment, try to get back in the thick of things. They are very quick on pit road. But Mike Miller is back in control of this one. Looks like he is going to put St. Amant a lap down here pretty shortly if something doesn't change. Let's go downstairs quickly. Brian Drepper.
Guys, down here on pit road, you're getting all kinds of stories. First of all, in the St. Amant crew, they are desperately hoping for another pit stop. They're going to go to rears, and Butch, you may be in fact right. The left rear could be the problem. For Mike Miller's crew, they say if it goes all the way to the competition yellow, and that situation will rear its head here shortly, they probably will not stop because it'll only be 20 laps or so to go till the end. On the other hand, everybody else says if they get a yellow flag, they will stop for tires. St. Amant's guys desperately want it. The other guys say if they get a yellow, they'll take it.
Everybody needs one. Miller's going to try to ride it out. He may not get the opportunity. Look at Eddie Hoffman catching back up to Miller here.
He's reeling him in quite a bit, and don't forget Tim Sauter is in this picture as well, as Sauter is behind Hoffman there, the fill the ball number 9, and Sauter's been running very consistently, and when Hoffman checked up and Miller scooted ahead, Hoffman was able to gather it up and stay in second. They now are climbing back into the back bumper and rear view of Mike Miller's cars. Now lap traffic again will play a part. The last time Hoffman passed him was on the outside.
Gary St. Amant trying to stay on the lead lap. Mike Miller is your leader. Watch it. We're going to take a look at his footwork. What you called this a one-footer a while back.
And what I mean by a one-footer, you notice he does all his accelerating and all his braking with just using his right foot. Left foot sits over there and does absolutely nothing. Now, there's advantage to this, especially at a little racetrack like this where you use a lot of brake, in that you can't have your foot on the gas pedal and the brake pedal at the same time. Now, the disadvantage to being a one-foot braker is that when something happens in front of you, you've got to move your foot a little bit farther to get to that brake pedal to stop in time for the whatever's in front.
So it is a trade-off, like so many things in racing, and Miller, one of the drivers who likes it and feels it's more comfortable to use his right foot to brake with. A lot of drivers don't. A lot of drivers drive like you would in a go-kart with your left foot on the brake and the clutch. Miller and the 5 of Hoffman have just put the 7 of Gary St. Amant a lap down. So St. Amant's chances of winning here today appear to have gone away. 39 laps to go. We've got 361 complete. Mike Miller gunning for his 14th career victory in ASA competition. Took several years off some years ago. Came back to the series with a vengeance 3 or 4 years back. And he is absolutely a championship contender this year in the Janet King Pontiac.
You know, the car that's just out of sight here, that 9 car, you notice these two, the front 2 guys, they're wiggling all over the place. And number 9 is just sitting back there nice and quiet, never ever wiggles, and he's probably got the best tires of the bunch right there, and he's probably going to sneak by with 10 to go and win the race.
He's trying with 37 to go. Hoffman came up behind David Anspaugh and had to back out of the gas, or he had a run going on Mike Miller that time down the backstretch. So Eddie Hoffman wants the lead again here in the waning laps at Anderson. Miller has to get on the brakes hard. Hoffman got into him a little bit. Miller had to jump on the binders and locked him up going into turn 3. That's never good for your tires, especially when you've run on them for a long time. Talked about the competition caution. We're getting close to 100 laps of green flag action, which is amazing considering the number of yellows we've had today. We may get a caution for that competition situation to give everybody a chance to stop before we get the checkered flag here this afternoon. There you see the 9 of Sauter back in 3rd spot. On board again, Miller, the Janet King Pontiac, taking a look back at his rivals. Which a couple of times this year we've talked about driving on these extremely short tracks. The quarter mile, the shortest one we'll go to this year. You're turning the car all the time, aren't you?
Just about. At a place like this, just about the time.
And we've got a spin. Excuse me, we'll get to that in a moment. David Anspaugh on the 37, looping up here between 1 and 2, so we will get a caution. Yellow flags coming back out. We'll have lots of pit action. We'll collect that thought about being in a turn all the time in just a moment. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back and cover the pit stop action for you, and then hopefully take you to the checkered flag here at Anderson Speedway in Anderson, Indiana. Welcome back to Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana on TNN Motorsports, the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series, the PayLess Supermarkets 400 today, and we are glad you are with us. Waning moments of this one, 30 laps to go, and we are under caution, less than 30 now. Leaders having stopped for service. Gary St. Amant got the tires he needed. We'll show you as they funnel onto pit road. Eddie Hoffman really came out of this one in the best shape of all. There's Hoffman, the black number 5 at the top of your screen, the top right of your screen here. They do a quick bit of work on the 5 car, and he comes off pit road with the lead, getting out in front of Mike Miller. Now, St. Amant got in front of Miller as well, so he gets his lap back on everybody but Hoffman. Gary's still 1 lap down to the leader. He's going to have to try to race his way by Hoffman.
It's an interesting scenario. With this few laps remaining, we have Gary trying to get his lap back, and we have Mike Miller on fresh tires. We have Tim Sauter on fresh rears. And Eddie Hoffman may be on his way to his first ASA win, becoming the 4th different first-time winner this season.
That would be an amazing situation. Safety car is in. Tristan Dupuis in the 11, several laps down, first car on the right racetrack. Then you have the 5 of Hoffman, the 7 of St. Amant, the 18 of Miller, the 9 of Sauter, and the 22 of Johnson. We're back going again. 25 to go, and look at this. Miller to the outside of St. Amant wants to get St. Amant 1 lap down again. Can't do it. St. Amant a little quicker, but Hoffman has driven away.
What you saw right there was St. Amant is having that clutch problem, and it doesn't disengage. He had a problem shifting through the gears, and they caught him on the start.
Now he is up to speed, and he is right up on the back bumper of Hoffman. And if Dupuis helps him out a little, Gary might be able to get inside, get the lap back. Here he is down into one on Hoffman. Now Hoffman is no shrinking violet. He's willing to use the bumper and the sheet metal. Dupuis now is going to hold up St. Amant. Gary gives him a shot. Wants the inside. Dupuis won't give it to him, so the leaders are going to freight train by. St. Amant shoulders his way to the outside in front of Sauter. A bold move indeed, and Miller back to the front inside of Hoffman. The 18 and the 5 are running 1-2. Now here comes St. Amant. He knows the laps are winding down. 22 to go. He's got to get his way past Hoffman and get up on Miller and get by him if he's going to have a shot here today. St. Amant being shown 5th. Only 4 cars on the lead lap at this point.
Dave Sensible just made a green flag stop for rear tires, so that killed him in his chances for a top 5 today.
It's Miller, Sauter, Hoffman, Johnson, and St. Amant. Then Fair, Sensible, Landis, Sperling, and Ken Alexander in 10th spot in the 03. Unbelievable. Mike Miller out in front of the 18. St. Amant trying to track him down and work his way by and get his lap back. Brian Drebber, what's going on downstairs?
Guys, I don't know as much about this, certainly, as Butch Miller does, but it seems like the 2 cars that changed rear tires did the right thing by putting that left rear on and a new right rear. That's where they're getting their advantage. So Mike Miller and Gary St. Amant are kind of checking out, even though St. Amant's down a lap, while Sauter's having to work for it. Hoffman's kind of going backwards. You tell me, Butch, and the guys upstairs, was that the smart move?
Obviously, it wasn't a smart move. I think what the problem could be is that Goodyear has chosen the softest tire of their compound selections to use on the left side here, and apparently they're not tough enough to go 150 or so laps.
Eddie Hoffman, who had the lead with 30 to go, brushed the wall again, whether it be in the last few laps or not. The right side of his black Ford is now whitened up with paint from the wall.
Tough afternoon for Hoffman. He's looked like he could win several times today, but at the moment he's fallen back to 4th spot with that brush for the wall. Sauter now starting to get going. He's 2nd in the 9. Let's take a look at what happened a couple of laps back as they come off of turn 2. There's Hoffman. He hit it hard. He didn't brush it. He really slammed into it. So Hoffman, and he picked up some contact with Ricky Johnson's machine there too. That's hard hit for both of those race cars.
That also was Mike Miller scooting ahead, so in one turn, Hoffman went from the lead to 3rd by hitting that wall and losing more time as we go on.
Down the main straightaway, St. Amant had an opportunity to sneak by Miller and get back on the lead lap, but Miller was able to close the door. He used one of the lap cars as a pick and forced St. Amant to get out of the gas. Mike from 8th spot today looking for his first win at Anderson. It would be his 4th of the season for the series point leader. St. Amant hanging tough. He is 4th. Needs to get by Miller in the waning laps. Coming up on 10 to go. On board the Mike Miller machine. He is right up now behind Eddie Hoffman's car. Now remember, Hoffman being shown in 4th spot. Miller's going to put him a lap down. St. Amant is going to go by. Hoffman fighting that car really, really in a major way now because he got into the wall so hard it must have knocked things askew big time in the front and the rear end of the 5 car. Jimmy Johnson back on the racetrack at the 44.
Johnson in 5 more laps will gain 1 position to 16th, and that's huge in the championship. It's 5 points per position in the top 10.
Mike Miller starting to open it up now. 8 laps to go and a spin. Greg Stewart in the 33 has spun. That's up at the top of turn 4. Somehow everybody gets by him. Looked like Stewart was going to get hammered there as he went around, but everybody got on the brakes, and here comes St. Amant. He's going to beat Miller to the stripe. We'll see if St. Amant gets credit for getting his lap back. As the yellow is waving. 12th caution of the day on lap 392, making 393 with 7 to go. So the safety car will come back out. And we will see what this means if St. Amant does get credit for getting back on the lead lap. We're going to jump away for just a second, come back and cover the checkered flag for you here at Anderson Speedway. Back live at Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. The ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series ready to go green with 5 laps remaining. Mike Miller, your leader in car number 18. Tim Sauter in the 9 right there in second spot. This is the race for the lead and the victory here this afternoon. The PayLess 400. Miller trying to hang on. Sauter working him over. Butch Miller, you told us a little while ago you thought Sauter had the best car out here at this point.
Well, he did a while ago. Now with the new tires, I don't know. Mike has been strong since the last restart.
3 to go this time by. Still Miller in the 18 and Sauter in the 9, and there is contact. Gary St. Amant hanging right there in the 7, but he is not on the lead lap. He is 4th. Ricky Johnson is 3rd. 2 to go. Dan Spence holds up twin flags for the 18 and the 9. Sauter, the winner last week at Hawkeye Downs in Cedar Rapids, 2 wins on the season. Miller, the point leader, with 3, and trouble. Brandon Sperling in the wall up in turn 3. Gets it off the wall and refired. We get caution as they were coming to the white flag. So the pace car will come back out. The pace car will come back out. And we will go apparently green, white, checkered to the finish.
Now, as long as the last 5 laps are run under green, it could be a caution at lap 396, but then we go 4 to the finish. We may indeed see a white-green restart. Okay. See what ASA decides.
We'll check on that, because they were coming to the white flag when Sperling got into the wall. He gets the 40 car pointed in the right direction. Looks like he's having a little trouble getting it started. Safety car out on the track in front of Mike Miller. Tim Sauter will be 2nd. Gary St. Amant, 3rd in line, is 4th, a lap down, actually. And Ricky Johnson is 3rd. It's going to be green, white, checkered, we're told. And we're ready to go as soon as the 40 car is off the surface. So it looks as though Tim Sauter will have 1 2-lap opportunity to work his way by and score his 3rd win of the season. Car getting a shove up between turns 3 and 4. Don't forget, next Saturday night we're back with you with ASA stock car action here on TNN Motorsports from Salem Speedway, Salem, Indiana. 9 o'clock Eastern time, our start time for the Salem run next week, and we hope you will be with us. It is the Tecumseh 300 here on TNN Motorsports. Next Sunday we'll be back at 11 o'clock Eastern and Pacific with another edition of TNN's Race Day. All the news of the week. Of course, we'll preview the NASCAR Winston Cup round in Pocono. Coverage of the NASCAR Busch Series, ARCA, the trucks, the Indy Racing League, and a whole lot more.
1 minute ago, Derek Gilchrist had his helmet on. They thought this car was repaired enough to make at least 1 lap because he and Rick Beebe have both completed 227 laps. However, in the scoring rundown, Beebe is 1 position ahead of Gilchrist. Beebe is coming into this event 6th in points, Gilchrist 11th in points. And if Gilchrist was to get ahead of Beebe, he'd gain 1 position and 4 more championship points.
But it looks like the car is not ready to run. All right, 2 laps to shoot it out. Mike Miller leads him to the green flag. Green, white, and checkered coming up at Anderson. Miller takes him down into turn 1. Sauter is 2nd. You remember the season opener at DeSoto. Things can change a lot the last couple of laps. Here comes Sperling back on the racetrack. White flag waving over Mike Miller. There's slower traffic in front. Sauter with a couple of turns left. Gives Miller the bump. He'll take a look inside. Miller pretty strong down into turn 3. Mike, the cagey veteran. Sauter leans on him coming off the 4th corner. Sauter goes sideways, but he won't get it done. Mike Miller, your winner in car number 18. Miller's 4th win of the season. His first finish here at Anderson. Your point leader comes home with a well-deserved victory. And Timmy Sauter comes up to give a wave to Mike Miller after the checkered flag. So a wild afternoon of action here at Anderson Speedway. Mike Miller is your winner. We'll meet him in Victory Lane when we come back. Our exclusive coverage of the PayLess 400 on TNN Motorsports is being brought to you in part by Grease Lightning Multipurpose Degreaser, by Tecumseh Engines, power to do things right, and by AC-Delco Automotive Parts. If you're not asking for it, you're asking for it. Welcome back to Anderson Speedway, Anderson, Indiana. This afternoon's action complete in the Payless Supermarkets 400. Mike Miller in Victory Lane for the 4th time this season. Here's Brian Drebber.
Mike, maybe this is kind of the, I don't know, is this a symbol for your season? You go from never finishing a race here at Anderson to winning. That's kind of the way things have gone all year long for you.
You bet. I'll tell you what, Carl Hyland and Chris, And this one is Duffy, Jim Duffy, my tire guy. He gave me the right tires all day. He told me yesterday what we could do. We changed the car last night for Duffy's tires, and it was awesome.
I'll tell you what, an awesome win.
What is it? Oh, it's the Wagner Power Jan King Pontiac.
All right, guys, back upstairs. You can tell that Mike Miller's awful happy about win number 4.
Mike adds to his point lead with a great run here this afternoon. Had to fight through some very, very tough competition to come home with a win for the 4th time in 11 tries this season. Looking more and more like a likely champion. Wild action here this afternoon at Anderson. Hope you enjoyed our coverage today. Two-way communications equipment for the AC-Delco Challenge Series is provided by Racing Electronics, the official communications group of the American Speed Association. See you next week from Salem, Indiana.